Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight as we get into Sasquatch, Bigfoot, paranormal, aliens, UFOs from Discover Sasquatch. Chris Reinhardt, a good friend of this show, is here tonight, and it's going to be a good one indeed. So sit back, relax, get your favorite woo beverage ready because we are going hard on this tonight. Let's say hello to everyone around the chat room so far. We have, let's see here, Ann B in the gold medal position. Nightmare with the silver. Race Fan taking home the bronze medal for the third night in a row. High Brown Dwarf and Penny Van. Markham, how you doing, buddy? Chris 716, what's up? D. Cohen, Dutch Hank, Lisa C, the lovely Kira, how are you? Did you get my emails? Did you check? All right. Susie B, how are you? It's Sasquatch-tastic, not Squatch-tastic, because we don't squatch around here. Sasquatch-tastic. Simply Coco, it's been a while. So glad you're back. And please tell us your beverage of choice for tonight's show. By the way, Simply Coco will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Hi, Jen A. Thank you for coming on in. Leafs in 67. 67. All right. Obi Flat, good to have you here. TMI, The Gong Show, how are you? Millennium, my man, good to see you. Friend of Squirrel Digger Dog, Zen 1, good to have you all here. Little Timmy Senor, a.k.a. Anonymous Rex, good to see you. Hi, Jessica. And Robert Lamoth, always a pleasure. All right, let's continue on with roll call. Simon the Dogface from Australia, good to see you, my man. And Richard Elmore, thanks for coming on in. Miss Anonymous. Pat Toohey, good to have you here. And Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. W. David Page, Richard Minnick, Rugged Source, good to have you all here. And let's see here. Sugar Britches, good to have you back. Sugar Britches will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Serpent, Lightwalkers, welcome. Michelle from North Carolina. And Redneck, good to see you. Penny Van, always a pleasure. Hi, Crystal J. Anthony, my man, how are you? Welsh Hammer, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call. Sensational Sherry, Love V Love, Truth Entertainment. Leafsid, 67. 67. All right. Bigfoot Rob, good to see you. And who else do we have here? Pam Harris, thanks for coming on in. Michael Godbold, good to see you. Tombstone, good to see you. Mennonite Abe, always a pleasure. Zen 2, One Life Man. Kurt Valdez, good to see you all here. And who else do we have? Oh, Leafs in 67. 67. Melissa Nicole, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Hold on, we got to start the radio side here. We got to let Bill WD-40 in. He'll be coming in right there. That way he could lube us up for tonight's show. Let's see, who else do we got in the chat room here? And let's see. Scrolling on down, I've said all you. Penman, what's happening, buddy? And Chillgasm, thank you for coming on in. And paranormal pixie Laura. There she is. Give us a wave. Laura always waves back. And Frost Kitten, good to see you. And Tim Mothman, thanks for coming on in. And Paramarv, good to see you. Oh, Leafson 67, I know you're having a good laugh right now. All right, the next couple of days are going to be interesting. It's a hockey thing, people. It's a hockey thing. You have to understand how much the rest of Canada hates the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah. All right. Let's do this thing. We got about 20 seconds here. And hi, Nancy Hayes. Hi, Nancy Thames. Look at the Nancy squared came in at the same time there. Asteroid, good to see you. And I forgot to put my freshener spray in. Super chat is open. Let's rock and roll. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're going into some monster hunting tonight. Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch is here. And I'm going to tell you, this is a fascinating story going from flesh and blood to the woo. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another spooky story. Then we have little Timmy Senor coming on in for the UFO report. Now, our good friend here, Chris Reinhardt, is a former nuts and bolts, flesh and blood type of guy when it came to his early days of being a Sasquatch investigator. But it wasn't until recently, as in the last year to 2 years, where he started noticing something a little bit different. There was woo in the woods, and it started changing the way he investigates. Chris's investigation area is with the Mount Berkshire area of New York and into Connecticut, and it gives him a pretty large area to look for this elusive creature. But the big question is, what exactly now is Chris looking for? Chris Reinhardt, my good friend, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio for our YouTube audience, our radio audience. Thank you for coming on in, man.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for having me. And I just want to applaud you. I love your intros, how you get everybody fired up for the show and say hello to everybody. And I love the first and second place. And I don't know too much about hockey, but that 6-7 thing must mean something pretty big up in Canada.
Well, you see, Toronto Maple Leaf fans, they're a weird breed, okay? They're like Red Sox fans before the Red Sox broke the curse of the Bambino. Okay, so the Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. But every fan of the Leafs, whether they were born in that era or born yesterday, they all believe that this is the year that it's going to happen again. And with all the television stations being of Toronto type hype, that's all the rest of Canada gets is about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So me being on the West Coast, we've all learned to hate the Leafs. Can't stand them. Can't stand them. So every time Leaf fan talks, it's our duty as hockey fans and Canadians to make sure that Leaf fan is reminded that you haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967.
Nice. Well, thank you for the explanation. Now I got it. And I guess I'll do the 67 with you because
Beautiful.
we're all friends here at Spaced Out Radio, so we might as well stick together, correct? Correct.
Well, exactly. And we got one guy in our chat room. His name is Leafs in 6. So I just added a 7 to it, because it just makes more sense than him actually believing that Toronto will actually get out of the first round of the playoffs this year. I mean, that's the way I feel. Who am I? Who am I?
It's good. It's all in good fun, right? Everybody, it's all in good fun. That's all it is. And so I want to say thank you for having me back. I believe this is like my 5th time on Spaced Out Radio, and it's an honor and privilege every single time to be here. And I'm always greeted with respect and love, and that's huge and on my part because not a lot of people like to talk about what we're talking about now. A lot of people frown on you, and but it's the truth, and the truth needs to get out there. Awareness needs to happen, and I just want to say thank you and applause to you and your audience on respect, and it's much appreciated.
Oh, anytime, my friend, anytime. And the one thing that I love watching about your research is watching you on how you evolved. And we're going to get into this big time tonight about how you evolved, because you were very much Sasquatch is a flesh and blood. It's not anything to do with the paranormal. It's not anything to do with UFOs or anything of high strangeness. We got to find this creature. We need a body. The typical anecdotal questions and answers that we go through as a host and guest, but your story is ever changing, and we're going to get into that heavy tonight. But first, I want, because our audience is always changing, Chris, I would love it if you could give a reason why to our new listeners who maybe never heard your story before, as to why they are, why this topic became important to you, why you became interested in investigating Sasquatch.
Okay, when I first started, I always had, of course, everybody says, they watched all the monster shows growing up and they knew Patty. And of course, I seen all that when I was a younger kid too. And I used to watch them 100 times. And every time that was on, I would watch the specials. It wasn't until we lost cable. Well, we didn't lose it. We got rid of cable because it was like $300 for a month worth of cable. We started streaming, and I was introduced to YouTube. And just for the heck of it, I put Bigfoot into the search engine one day, and then all of a sudden, bam, a whole nother world just opened up right in front of me. So I started searching through the YouTube and looking at my favorite people, looking with it, and then I'm like, you know what? I didn't know when this first started. I didn't know there was actually people like myself and yourself were out in the woods actually doing this, actually looking for Bigfoot. I thought it was just the people you saw on the TV shows doing it time and time again. These are the only people that were out there. I didn't know that we ourselves could go out and do it. So you know what I did? I says, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I am going to give it a shot and see what I can find. So I started going out in the woods and I started finding the structures, and I had my own little following group. I'm actually Brown Dwarf, who I believe is a moderator on your show. He was one of my good friends when I first started this. We all started about the same time on the tree structures. And I was kind of into the woo part of it when I first started believing it. But then I got involved with another group, and I left the woo part of everything, and I went strictly flesh and blood. I was out for the money shot. That's what overtook me. Everything, I wanted to get that picture. I believe I could get that picture. I believe I could get the proof that's going to prove to the world, like we all think that we do when we start off, that's going to prove to the world that Sasquatch exists. And that's when I went in full steam. I have been doing this for, I believe, 8 years now, and I have progressed every year. I have thousands of dollars worth of, this isn't bragging either, but I've invested a lot of time and money into investigating the Sasquatch people. Now I believe they are people. Before, I never believed they were a people. Things have progressed in the last 8 years. I have become full circle, I call it now, from when I first started to now. I've went my loop and I have come back, and things have just, in the last couple of years, most people wouldn't believe what has happened, and I barely believe it myself. I have experienced it. My wife has experienced it now, and she's not into the discovery of Sasquatch. She goes, "That's your thing. I don't want nothing to do with it." But she's actually involved with things that are happening around here now. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's how I got started. It was YouTube that got me into it. I followed my own little clique, and then that's how I entered the search for Sasquatch. And brought me to Colorado. I've been to Missouri. I've been to the swamps of Florida. I've been in Upper New York State. I've been to Massachusetts. I've been to Connecticut. I've been to New Mexico. I go as many places I can go in search of the truth, and that's what I'm out for, is the truth of what the Sasquatch people are and how they operate and where they come from. And awareness, and I will get to that part, but awareness is number one. People need to be aware. Even if they think they're not in that woods, they should always have in the back of their mind that they might be there. So awareness in my book is number one.
You mentioned that you started off, and I mentioned this a couple times, that you started off very flesh and blood, that this is a monster of some sort that is lurking in our forest. And we don't know if it was dangerous. We don't know if it just wants its own solitude. We have very few answers about it. And now you have changed. What caused that change within you, where you've gone from more of a scientific method to more open-mindedness, that we may not be seeing the big picture of what Sasquatch really is?
Well, 2 years ago, I experienced something down in the Green Swamp that most people would never experience in their life. I went to visit my friend Chris Connery. If most of you probably know him, his channel on YouTube is called The Trail to Bigfoot. He's a great guy, great family. They took me in, treated me great down there. But we went into the Green Swamp down there, and we had things happen that changed my whole life. It just changed every way I look at Bigfoot. There was no other way after I left the Green Swamp that there was anything. There was more to these guys. We got they knew our names. We caught live EVPs of them. I fell in the brook. I'll start over. I'm sorry. Every time I told myself I wasn't going to get like this, just because every time I'm on SOR, I get all pumped up and I start rambling and I get all excited. So I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to do it right this time. So I went to Florida, and Chris brought me into his spot that he's been researching for the last 10 years. Day one, we walked in there. Now, Chris had some problems down there. He hadn't been into the Green Swamp in over a year. Now I'm down there. We're going into his spots. We go in that first day, and we're followed. We can hear something following us. It's bipedal. They're tracking us, and we know, we've been around the Sasquatch enough to know who's following us, what's following us. We get to this certain spot. Now, Chris is a big fan of Skinwalker Ranch. He follows Skinwalker Ranch. He follows all the scientists out there. He follows all the things that are going out there. So he decided to introduce an EMF meter, which we all know for ghost hunting, people use EMFs, but this EMF meter had radio frequency dial on it. So we were setting the meter to radio frequencies. So we got to his spot. It's called the Fridge. It's out in the middle of the Green Swamp. I mean, it's 3 miles in. It's off the beaten path. You can't just drive up to it. You have to hike into it. So we get to that spot, and we're talking, and I brought some pheromone chips, just because that's me. I'm Mr. Flesh and Blood. So I brought pheromone chips. Maybe that'll bring them in. Well, we brought the pheromone chips in, and we hunt them in the trees. No lie, 5 minutes later, we had rocks being thrown at us from 2 different directions, and they're coming, and they're hitting the palm fronds, and they're bouncing down. But at the same time, Chris's radio frequency meter tops off. Now, we didn't know at the time. I'll get to that, but it's full steam. It's beeping, beep. It can't go any higher. It's good. It's reading 1 dash 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 dash. It's not even a reading that's on the meter itself. So that goes on for that day. You know, a couple other crazy things go on. The next day, we go to a different spot that he calls Knox Creek. Now, this is where everything goes haywire. This is what changed my life this day. We get to Knox Creek. We get to this place that he says, you know, he's bringing me to a place. He says, usually when I'm there, I can ask for a knock and he can get a knock. So we get there. All of a sudden, I'm going across the creek and I fall in the creek. You know, I don't fall in, but I stumble in and splash. Later on review of our recorders on EVPs, we get a voice in a Southern draw that says, "Hey, look, it's Chris." Southern draw. We capture it. Perfect. You can see you can see everything I'm about to tell you on my channel, Discover Sasquatch. It's called the Veil Interview, and you can hear the EVPs, everything I'm about to tell you. You can see and watch. So, anyways, that was later in review. We get across the creek. We get to this spot. And Chris goes, this is the spot where I can ask. So he goes, so Chris doesn't think I'm crazy and, you know, talking to the woods and saying that can you give me a knock? No lie, 25 seconds later, we get a knock on the tree. But first we get rock clacks. It goes clack, 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 clack. And then the knock happens. And me and Chris go, whoa. All of a sudden, the meters start going. Again, it starts beeping. Beep, beep. Chris gets his phone out. Chris's phone is going haywire, like something is trying to tap into his phone. It's going through his work. He works at a place where you need a passcode to get into work, and it's highly secured. And they're trying to get into his CVS account, his bank account, and they're just going through all this codes. And he's like, "What's going on with your phone?" I just got this phone 2 weeks early. I looked down at it and I'm like, nothing's going on with my phone. I turn it on and there's a text message that from like me typing out to somebody else. And it was four letters over and over again. And it was B, B, C, and M. 60 lines of it. B, B, C, M, C, M, B, 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 B. So we thought it was a butt dial, right? We erased all of it but 12 lines. We figure we'll film the last 12 lines just in case it's important. And we film them. And that day is just that. We get out, we get more knocks, we get more stuff thrown at us. We get back to his house. I take a shower. I get out of the shower. I look at my phone to see if, if Maria called or whatever. Back on my phone is the text message again that we just erased, but now it's in capital letters, spaces, dots, exclamation points, capital letters. This is showing us now that this is not a mistake. This is it. And it's the same four letters, B, B, M, and C. Chris and I couldn't figure it out. We thought it was some kind of a Morse code. So, that's what we're thinking. So he calls his wife over, and his wife's name's Beata. And he's like, Beata, what do you think this is? She goes, I know exactly like what that is. And me and Chris look at each other. We're like, you got to be kidding me. How do you know what exactly? She goes, it's Betty, Beata, Chris, and Mark. The first four initials of the four people that have been in the Green Swamp for the last 10 years in that area searching for the Sasquatch. Their first four initials on my phone being typed out to somewhere else in my pocket. That changed everything for me with the EVPs that we caught, that message breaking into the phone. 2 weeks later, we get back to Connecticut, and it happens here. It happened. I have a guy from Massachusetts that comes down. He wants to come to my spot. So I said, sure, come on down. We'll go up to this spot. We're on the way up to my area. His phone starts going crazy. We get to the top of the mountain. I go to show my group on Facebook. There's a fire pit that's never been used in like 8 years up there, but there's always little sticks broken and putting on the side of it. It just changes all the time. So I bend over to show my group on Facebook the little fake fire pit, and all of a sudden a rock comes in right when I'm live, hits the fire pit. We have rocks coming in on all four sides, and guess what's going on? The RF meter goes tops off again for 20 minutes straight while we're having stones thrown at us. Dog barking down at the bottom of the hill. There's no dogs at the top of this mountain. And so 2 weeks in a row, Connecticut and Florida, the same thing happens. We write the company that has the meter. We ask them why, what does this mean? It's registered, and they tell us that it doesn't. That means that the meter doesn't register any higher. That's what they're reading. That's what we're reading. It doesn't go any higher. We had a satellite technician reach out to us and say, anything, it's a broadband EMF detector, so it's not pinpointed. So it's a broad spectrum. So wherever it's coming, it's going to pick it up. But the guy says, the satellite tech guy goes, 16 dot and above on that meter. There is no way in heaven's name that you guys should be getting that reading anywhere. He said, if you were in a Faraday box, you would cook. The microwave level was so high, and it's such a broadband 16 and above. He couldn't believe it. He still can't believe it. He says the only thing that it could be in reality is a drone above your head following you guys, tracking you. He says that's the only explanation that he has for that. So while we're getting stones thrown at us, looking for Sasquatch, this radio frequency meter is going up, and now we are picking up EVPs every time that we're out in the areas that we go looking for Sasquatch. This has never happened until after the Green Swamp. And now things have progressed to the point now where I am actually experiencing mind speak. We've had events here, but we'll get there eventually. So that's what changed my life. That's what changed my look at Sasquatch, because there's no way that it's not related to one another in my book.
Damn it, man, you have gone right down the rabbit hole, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, with 90 seconds to go, when people change in their theories so drastically like you had, there's usually a little bit of backlash to it. How has the response been to your change of theories of what this is?
I have lost friends. I have lost people. If it was somebody who was like my best friend and that's what they experience, I would have been okay with it. That's the way they feel about it. It's all IMO. I can't tell you for sure this has to do with Sasquatch. I can only relay what happened to me. I have lost friends. I have lost people on my channel. I have lost subs. I mean, that's not, awareness is what is most important to us. I don't make any money on my YouTube channel. I'd use it to get the word out. This is real. This is real. Wait till you hear this. This is just the bottom of the barrel, everybody. This just gets crazier and crazier. We're seeing crafts now, and I'm sure we'll get there. But I've lost friends over it, and but I have also gained friends because of it. Because there's a lot more people out there that I thought that this goes on with than it doesn't. So I have also gained a lot of good friends also from it.
Well, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Hard to believe we're already through 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight from Discover Sasquatch, Chris Reinhardt, an investigator in New York and Connecticut, looking for the legendary Bigfoot. From losing friends, trying to figure out how this phenomena all ties together. This is what we're going to get into next on Spaced Out Radio with Chris Reinhardt. It's a great show so far, and it's only going to continue, so stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Isn't that crazy how people will literally abandon you as friends because you believe in something different?
It's absolutely crazy. It's just like believing, like if I had a friend that doesn't believe in if they're Catholic or whatnot, you know what I mean? It's just like being prejudiced. That's the way I look at it. You're prejudiced. Just because I believe that there's something supernatural to these guys, you can't be my friend because of it, or I use the bathroom, same bathroom that you know what I mean? Is it going to get to that point? I doubt it. But that's what it reminds me of. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I would absolutely never do that to somebody else. I would never. I have friends that still are flesh and blood. I just tell them my part. I said, well, this is what happened to me in this all. I can't change their minds. I said, but once it happens to you, you'll know. And that's all I tell them. And I have friends that that have stuck with me too. It's just a shame that it comes to that. It really is, because I did lose a couple really good friends, and I should have never have, and I still haven't figured it out. But
Well, obviously, and I have no problem talking tough with it, but in my opinion, obviously, they're idiots. If they are that narrow-minded to toss out a great friendship because you believe differently, they're morons. They're and you know what? If they're BFRO followers, they're morons. They really are. I mean, if you're gonna, here's my issue. I have no issue with the BFRO, okay? Because anybody can do what you want. But when you are blatantly lying about your research and your research numbers and statistics, you can't be trusted.
right, you have to tell the truth. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to lie to you.
Exactly.
I'm not going to hide it. This is what's going on. I mean, everything that I say and I tell everybody, I've always had a witness. I'm never alone, ever. And they've all experienced it. My team has experienced it. That guy that came down from Mass still can't get over that day. And I haven't even brought up to where it's not like you're in the same place. My team, that day that we went up to the top of the mountain after I came back from Florida, the two youngest members of my team says, "Are you sure we're on the same trail that we were on last weekend? Because it sure doesn't seem like we're in the same place."
Mm-hmm.
That day, it was the day that it all went haywire. We had rocks thrown at us all day long, and then the meter went off on the top of the mountain, and Shayna said she's seen one, and then Michael got sick. He turned all red, almost vomiting. It was a pretty intense day. But it wasn't like you were in the same place. It's like, it's weird. It's hard. It's like you're in another realm, it's like you're in a portal. You went through somewhere. I don't know how to explain it because I don't know anything if portals are real. I don't know. I've never seen a portal. I couldn't tell you what a portal is, but I'm starting to think that there's a way for for whatever to use these doors. And
I hear you.
Tesla and Einstein, and they knew they existed. So they're out there. I know that, but I don't know how to find them or how to use them or even where to begin to even look for one. They
definitely don't have them in Walmart. I can tell you that.
Yeah, right. You can't buy one off eBay.
No, definitely cannot. But no, it's really sad because, I mean, when I see somebody who is completely flesh and blood about this creature, it makes me laugh because, like there's one guy here in BC who he goes around speaking at engagements, how he's looking for the big BC monkey, the big monkey of the forests. And I just look at that and the way he talks about the arrogance that you have to have in order to call it a monkey or whatever description you want to make, when none of us know what this creature is.
Right.
And I think that it hurts the research.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And that's not healthy for what we're trying to accomplish here. It's not healthy at all.
Well, I agree with you 100%. He's not in the woods enough. And I've come to that conclusion. The more that you're in the woods looking for these guys, the more this stuff will open up to you. And it's just the way it goes. It's just anybody will tell you that the more you're in the woods, if you're going to go in the woods every 3 months and call yourself a researcher or investigator, then that's all you're going to do is you're going to hear a tree knock now and then, and that's what you'll never progress.
If you're lucky. All right, we got 10 seconds here. Big thank you to Chili Peen for kicking off the super chat tonight and for this month. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. Here's the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Hey, before we continue, I want to give a big shout out to our newest listeners out in Vernal, Utah at Channel X94. Got a great email from Charlie, the station manager, earlier today, saying that you guys are really starting to dig what we do on Spaced Out Radio here. So thank you so much for sharing that love with Charlie. We really do appreciate it because we're working hard to bring you these strange stories that are going all around the world on a nightly basis. So thank you so much for the love. We appreciate it. And to all our other radio stations out there, just continue to grow. We see the numbers, and you guys are loving this type of programming at night, and we're glad to bring it to you each and every night here. So thank you so much. Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and we are getting into a lot about what this creature is and Chris's own amazing experiences. It's changed. At first, he thought it was flesh and blood. Now, he's not so sure. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, my man.
Well, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure being here. Always a pleasure.
So right before the break, you kind of got into the idea and the fact, and it is fact, that you lost friends over your switch in attitude about Sasquatch. And, you've had to put that behind, and now you got to keep moving on towards your own push for your own direction, because you have to investigate what happens to you. How has your investigations changed now that you've figured out there might be something more to this creature than just skin and bones and blood and muscle?
So I have added frequency techniques to our investigations now. And of course we have the EMF of the meter. I am bringing tuning forks into the forest. We're going to be trying tuning forks. We have other stuff that I'm not announcing yet, but we're building special boxes with special things built into them to hope that we can draw. We're doing a lot of research on orbs. We think that we might be able to draw them in because the research that we've been doing in the off season here, we know what they're attracted to. We know a lot where they're seen. And so we're doing experiments about orbs this year. And I just want to let everybody in on a little secret. Aquifers. If you have an aquifer in your area that you go and you research in, chances are you're going to run into the Sasquatch. You're going to run into the spirits. They're all attracted to these aquifer areas for some reason. I can't explain it. I came up with it on my own because I did some research at my friends' areas and my areas that I go to, and I took the maps out, and I just wanted to see what commonalities there would be. And they all had aquifers at them. I didn't know the pyramids were built over aquifers. I didn't know the Indian mounds, they're built over aquifers. They built them over the aquifers because the shamans and all that, they could feel the earth's energy. coming from the ground from these aquifers. And now I'm going to tell you a weird story about these aquifers. This is just part of our investigations now. So it's the Zoom H1N, it's a recorder that we use. Doug, I've been using it for 3 years. Every time I use it, I get like a water sound that you can hear running water. I can play. You want me to play something? So I can play something for you right now, and you can hear it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
This is at a frozen swamp. There's 4 of us in Connecticut. So we'll play it right now.
You hear that?
What?
It sounds like it goes, hey, like that.
No.
Coming from up here.
Do y'all hear the water running?
Okay, you gotta be careful.
Wow, I heard it that time. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I heard the hey. There's the water.
See?
I just heard that right here.
Yeah.
It's like it was right in my ear. Now, did you?
What the hell is that? Why would there be water sounding like it's running?
I think the H1N, Doug Hitech says it picks up infrasound. I think the aquifers are the things that generate the infrasound from under the ground, and I think that's what the recorders are picking up. Did you hear the 2 hays, though? Did you hear the first hay?
I did not. Let's play that again.
All right, so I'll give you the rundown. The first one, you're going to hear a hay, and this is the guy in the back of the group. Now, we're all 12 feet apart. He hears this hay, but us and the 3 of us up front don't hear it. Then after I say I don't hear it, you'll hear, you got to listen. Then you'll hear another guy go, hey. And then we hear it, and he doesn't. So we're picking up 2 different hays, and we're all 12 feet apart. That's all we are. And it's all EVPs.
You hear that?
What?
Yeah, it sounds like it goes, hey, like that.
No.
Coming from up here. Okay, you gotta be careful.
Wow, I heard it that time. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I heard the hey.
See?
I just heard that right here.
Yeah.
It's like it was right in my ear. Now you heard the running water. That's a frozen swamp in February in Connecticut. Where is that running water coming? And I've got it in 4 videos when we're picking up EVPs and there's no running water near it. I don't know how to explain. I think it's the aquifers. I think they're generating infrasound. I really, 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 really do.
That's incredible. Incredible. I want to get back to this hay thing for a while because, for some reason, whether it's aliens, UFOs, and even a lot of cryptid and paranormal stuff, a lot of times the phenomena only let certain people hear or see things. Okay, like you could be in a group of 10 people and 5 of them will see a UFO in the sky. The other 5 don't see anything. And all the other people will be pointing up like, hey, there it is. Look, it's moving. And other people are like, what are you staring at? That's just the stars. They cannot see it. Do you have that sort of feeling that was happening?
Oh yeah, it's happened twice. Maria, my wife, and I seen a craft here the night of the election here in the United States. And people were out in the parking lot, and we were following it down the parking lot, and we're going, look at that, look at that, look at that. And there's people out there taking groceries out of their trunk of their car and didn't even turn around to look at us. It was like we weren't even there. And Maria brought this up to me. I didn't even notice that. But she's like, did you know what the weirdest part about all that was? I was like, other than the craft that appeared and disappeared in front of our eyes? No, what was weird in that? The people that were in the parking lot didn't even recognize that we were there. It was like we weren't there. We were just we were the only ones meant to see this craft. And it was the size of a football field. This thing was only 100 foot over our apartment. Didn't make a sound. It was a copper color. It was made out of triangles. I could show you. I got pictures pulled up if you want. I could show you what it looked like. I did it angles, and it If you want to see it, I mean, it's just
Pictures are a little hard for our radio audience, but if we can describe them for our radio audience, that would be really cool.
Yeah. All right. So it was an octagon shape, but it was made out of it was all triangle patterns, and they were all copper, and it looked like wasn't it your basic cigar? It was like a cigar in the middle, and then it just tapered off really, really thin at the ends, and there was a white light on the front, and there was a blue and a red one on the back. And it made zero sound. And then when it banked to where we saw the top of it. That's how hard it turned. And then it flattened itself out and kept on going. And we hopped in our car and followed it. It went up the hill where we lived, hung another left, got to the woods, and poof, disappeared right there. And Maria's she still can't. Maria's, like I was telling you earlier before the show, this is my stuff. The Sasquatch, the stuff that I do, this is the stuff I enjoy. Maria wants nothing to do with it. She doesn't want to experience it. And this is the second craft that we have seen together. But this thing was like I just brought it up. It was like we were meant to see it and nobody else was. And like the AVPs, the guy in back, like the one we just listened to, the guy in the back heard that hey. The three of us up front didn't. But when the second hey came with a different tone of voice, we heard that hey and he didn't. And we're all in a line of 12 feet. And then you got the running water where we're in a frozen swamp in February in Connecticut, and that's ice. We're in ice. There's no running water there. It's just, like I said, it just keeps on getting stranger and stranger as we move along here.
I love it. I love the high strangeness when it comes out like that. Chris, the idea that the reason why I get goosebumps when we talk about stuff like this is it reminds me of the time when I had a Sasquatch encounter with some friends, and I saw pixelation beside a tree behind my friend's house, and only one other person out of us four could see it besides me. And that pixelation was from the ground to about 8-10 feet up that tree. And the other two got frustrated because they couldn't see a thing. We walked to the front of the house, and as soon as we got to the front of the house, from that exact area where the tree was, we got roared at. And it was the most blood-curdling thing I have ever heard in my life and never want to hear again. I have gone over YouTube, I don't know how many times, for every animal that is in that area, and nothing sounds like what we heard that day. Mm-hmm. And the idea that this strangeness is happening because a lot of First Nations people believe that Sasquatch is a shapeshifter or interdimensional of one sort, it is hard to fathom for a lot of us out there because we don't think of things in such an open term. So for you, when you take your team out and you're out looking for this and you're looking now for those anomalies, are those anomalies happening each and every time you go out now? Or is it staggered? Maybe it's once every 3 times, once every 5 times you go out?
Last year I had some health issues with my eye and stomach, but every time we went out last year, it happened to the team. I'm never by myself. I never go by myself. I had an experience when I first started this, and I have never gone out in the woods by myself, and I won't do it. We were lured into the woods by something we couldn't see, and it pretended to be a wounded dog, and I never gone back in alone. So every experience that I've told you guys tonight, I have had somebody with me. The team has now there's 2 females on our team. They're young ladies. They're 21, and I believe Mary's 19. They have both seen 2 Sasquatches at our area this year. They got whistled at, like you see a pretty girl, you go like that. They got whistled at that like that this year at my area. It was the craziest thing I've ever heard, and it happened. And they seen them that day. So it's happening Basically, yeah. So almost every time I would say we're either taking EVPs or sightings or something's being thrown, but we're having activity. Again, we're not seeing what's doing it now. Now that's the big one. We're not seeing a Sasquatch doing this. We're only assuming that it's a Sasquatch because that's what we're looking for. I think I think aliens have a lot to do with what's going on with the Sasquatch now too. I think everything's attracted to these high strangeness areas, high energy. I just believe that the Sasquatch are attracted, aliens are attracted. Of course, studies have shown that spirits are attracted to the high energy, with all the gadgets. So we're going to start bringing out some ghost hunting equipment with us here this year to try out also. Yeah, I'm almost every time, Dave. It's I found a 4-print trackway this year, and when it was 95 degrees and we were getting eaten alive. It's in the swamp again, the same swamp where we just got that EVP, and found 4 beautiful tracks coming down this hill, and then they just disappeared. But it was the worst day imaginable. The sweat was just pouring down your face. The horse flies, you're getting eaten. You're trouncing through the brush in the swamp. And we found this area where those tracks were. And the guy that was with me, he goes, it's like we're not even in the same forest anymore. There was no more bugs. There was no more heat. It was like we were in a whole different forest. The birds stopped. Everything. It was the weirdest situation I've ever experienced. But it's happened at the other areas too. With the two youngest people of my team too. We were up at that Rock Throw Alley, and we were having stuff go on. And they came up to me and they're like, "Are you sure we're on the same trail that we were on last week? Because the woods doesn't feel the same." So I think that has a lot to do with it, and we're starting to pay attention to that too. When the woods gets quiet and it doesn't seem like you're in the same spot anymore, it's time to sit down and take it in and start looking around, because we believe that you have either stepped into, I don't even know how to explain it, but I might have gone off track a little bit, but
keep going, man. You're sounding great.
But it's like you're in a different area when they're around. It's not like you're in the same area. You're somewhere else. And I don't know if we've gone through a portal, because I don't know what a portal is. I've never seen a portal. I couldn't even tell you how to find a portal. Like we were talking on the break, we can't go to eBay and buy a portal. But I can tell you this, that the areas when this happens, you're in it. It's not the same place. It's the wind changes, the humidity changes. It's just not the same. So, are you invited to these areas? By tracking these guys, we found the 4 prints because we followed a set of prints that day. We were all over that swamp that led us to this one area. And then once we got there, or were they just there and they slipped out and that door was still open while we were there? I mean, there's 1,000,001 possibilities, but all I can tell you is that it was no longer 95. The deer ticks were no longer biting us, and we were able to sit there and measure the prints and talk about the prints and just sit there like it would. The heat was never there. So it's very, very strange. Things have gotten very, very strange in the last couple of years. But if you start putting it in your book, write everything down, and if it starts continuing, then you know that this is what goes down. This is something to look for. So that's another thing that we're looking for. We go to aquifer areas, and then we're looking for, while we're out at these areas, for the woods to calm down. We've all experienced the woods turning off. I mean, that's common. Everybody talks about when you're all out Sasquatch, you're at an area, all of a sudden the birds stop. There's nothing, the squirrels aren't there. The bugs aren't there. I mean, the katydids even shut down when the Sasquatch is around. So these are just things I'm trying to tell you. That's what we're looking for. That's what has changed in my investigations. Because before, I would have never in a million years even thought of even thinking about that happening, and for us to look for it.
One of the things I want to ask you about this is when you choose an area, And I think for any rookie out there who or amateur such as myself who wants to learn this subject, it's not just about driving any forest road to see if you see anything. You really have to start and lay roots in an area. Look, once you find that first clue, whether it's a footprint or a structure or a bunch of anomalous X's in the trees that seem to line up, that's your starting point. And you may have to go there 10, 20, 30 times before you start getting any sort of interaction or high strangeness. How important is it to be patient with this creature and just let things happen?
It is very, very, very important because we gifted with these guys for 6 years at my place I called Larry's. And we went there for over, I would say, 2 months before anything was ever taken, before any gifting ever started, until we even heard a knock. It was at 2 months. But what we noticed and what we went and looked for were the structures. We went and looked for real structures. I mean, the structures, there's a lot of them. You got to be careful because a lot of them are wind blown. Structures that we found there is we found a bow. Now bows are tough because trees fall all the time and they can land on a sapling, and that sapling is still going to grow. It's going to keep growing year after year. As long as it's getting water and sun, it's going to grow. We found a sapling that was broken and it was stuck in a stump, and the other part of the sapling was stuck in the ground. Now that was manipulated. That did not grow that way. It was done that way. So we would mark that on our map. We would draw our little map. And at this time we were back and forth all over the woods. I mean, we never had a pattern. But as soon as we started marking the structures, it formed a loop. So after the loop formed, we started walking the same path all the time. And then one day we got our first knocks. And when we got our first knocks, we were looking for a place to start trading with them. We said, all right, so the knocks happened there. We're going to trade with them there. And that's how we found the trading spot. We were patient, like you just said. We took our time. We looked around. We looked for with them. I think they notice when you're looking at their stuff. I think they pay attention too. You do the same loop every time. They know where you're going. You're not going to surprise them. You're not going to back out on them. They can get ahead of you. They can stay behind you. And we put the gifts there. We started trading. A month later, after we laid the first gifts there, they took everything on the whole rock. And for 6 years, we traded with them at that spot. Now we can't go back there because the land sold. We got kicked off the property. After seeing, I almost cried because they were following us the last year to the point where they were knocking on trees 20 feet in back of us, letting us know they were there. And the property's now sold, so now we can't get back up there. But patience, yes, Dave, is very, very important. Time to them, I think, means nothing. I mean, they're in no hurry for anything in my book.
No, and you know what? I want to ask you, because in our area that we started getting action on late last fall, as we got about a minute to go here, in your area, have you ever had encounters where the minute you get out of you're driving up to that spot and you get out of your vehicle, something is scaring you to stay right the hell away?
We've gotten in a different area. Yeah. Well, we never had that at Larry's, but I've had that up at Rock Throw Alley where we wouldn't go to the top because that's the spot where we usually interact with them. It's off trail and nobody knows where it's an old campsite that is not even used anymore. And, some days you just don't want to go up there. It's just, you got that. It's just the feeling that you get that you don't want to go up there. And so I don't, after the Rock Throw Alley got its name for that reason, for rock throws. And that was the first experience that we had there. And if you want to talk about when we get back from break, I'll let everybody know what happened.
All right, Chris, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Our good friend of this show, Chris Reinhardt. We're talking Sasquatch tonight. He's from Discover Sasquatch in the Berkshire Mountains area, New York and Connecticut. A great highway of monsters that he is tracking on down. And when we return, we're going to get into more story with Chris right after this. Stay tuned. All right, buddy, we are clear.
Okay.
I'm going to take a quick break here. Did you want to hang out with the audience, chat with them, or did you want me to put you in the green room?
I'll take the green room. I gotta go get something to drink real quick.
All right, audience, we'll be right back, guys. Be right back. All right. I am back. So is Chris.
Yep.
How y'all doing out there in radio land and podcast land and everything? YouTube land, Twitch land.
So you can see all that on your board?
Oh yeah. This is podcast land right here. See what one of my listeners made for me right here?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, the Michael Leger, who is in our chat room, he carved that gnome for me last year. And then in the mail just about a month ago, I got this Sasquatch head that he carved. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Gotta love people like that, you know? Love them.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Just to be able to do something like that, you know, with your hands and carve it like that is pretty crazy.
Not me, man. Not me. Big thank you tonight to both Chili Peen and Rob for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. I want to remind you, we're just a couple of weeks away from UFO Con 2023 in San Francisco. I will be there as one of the hosts, and would love to see you all down there March 17th through 19th in San Francisco. You can get your tickets at UFOCon2023.com. And then, of course, our Las Vegas event, the second annual fan party, May 19th through 21st. We want to see you all there, and we're going to have some great guests that are going to be there. And, yeah, get your tickets now. VIP tickets are just $100, regular tickets $60, and go to info@spacedoutradio.com. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in from our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kyrie Alexi is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with our good friend Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch out of the Berkshire Mountains of New York and Connecticut, chasing down the legendary monster we call Bigfoot. And, you know, there is so much going on with this creature and the way it acts, the way it seems to manifest itself in areas. Right before the break, we were talking about, you know, trying to keep everything the same. The one thing about Sasquatch is it really seems to like patterns. Like if you park in the same spot, if you're wearing the same clothes, if you walk the same direction each and every time. Why do you think that is?
I think they're a creature of habit. I'm a creature of habit. I same routine every day. It's kind of boring, but I think if they get used to it, they get comfortable with it. I mean, if you get comfortable with your habits, I mean, it becomes, it's called a habit for a reason. It comes daily. And I think they get comfortable with seeing you doing the same thing. I do. I wear the same. I wear camo. I don't wear camo because I'm hunting them. I just wear camo because I like camo. We use a whistle, the same whistle at every area that we use as an ID. They know the whistle. They've imitated the whistle. We have that on my channel. You can search that, and they've imitated it almost perfectly except for one note. I just think they enjoy being part of who and what you're doing, and knowing that there's not going to be any surprises. Like if you walk that path all the time, the same path, they know where you're going to go. They know you're not going to go off over to the right, or you're not going to go backtrack to the left. They're going to follow you. They're going to come with you. They're going to see what you're looking at. They're going to be curious. Again, this is just my opinion, and this is what we've gathered over the years. We've learned lots of stuff this way, and with the gifting area, and yeah. So I think they're a creature of habit. I think they like being secure. And even though they're that big and could tear your neck apart or whatever, or tear your arm out of socket, I think they like to feel safe, and they don't want to be surprised.
No, and I can see that very much so. I mean, they are a creature where, look, we know they're strong. We know that that in order to compete in that type of environment, they have to be, I don't want to say an apex predator, but let's say an apex creature of their environment. You know, we have stories about these creatures eating deer, eating uh, hogs in the United States, wild feral hogs. You know, we hear this. I mean, this is where I think a lot of that flesh and blood versus interdimensional seems to come into play here. You know, if a creature is interdimensional and has all these mystic powers, why would it need to feed off of deer or hogs or any other type of animal? I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I do believe they do come here and hunt. I believe they sleep here, they hunt here, they defecate here. I know that. We found plenty of piles. I never found out till last year that they defecate together. It's a common thing, I guess, in certain areas. There's 3 of them there. You'll find 3 piles, and it happens all over the place. And I never knew that. And I used to find that at Larry's all the time, and we thought it was very strange. And then we found out last year that there was a thing, and we're like, holy cow, that goes on at Larry's too. I think they have to eat, and I think from wherever they come from, they have to hunt here because maybe their food source there has diminished, or it's poisoned, or they can't eat it any longer, or they come here and they have to eat to survive while they're here. Who knows how long they stay here? Who knows if they just come in an hour and then they're gone an hour? Who knows how long of a period of time that one even, is here, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So of course, if something's here 90 days and it needs water and food to survive, it's going to eat, and it's going to drink, and it's going to do what it's got to do while it's here. They just, in my book, they're just not here all the time, and they have very special abilities.
Right. So let's get to some of your stories, because I think people always like to hear the stories of this. You know, talk about one of your closest encounters that you have had.
All right, I'd really like to tell you what's happened here at my house with the meditations and everything. As of late, I think you'll really enjoy hearing this, and it's more the woo. This, like I said, this has just progressed. So I started meditating and asking things and put questions to the universe. I've been reading books on Tesla and Einstein. I just think frequencies and vibration, I think that has a lot to do with what's going on out there with these guys in the forest, and that's what I'm into now. So I started meditating, and I was in a meditation, and it just doesn't happen all the time, and I can't get there all the time, but when you're there, it's like you're pulled into this spot, and I can't describe the feeling, but it's very peaceful, and you're there. Well, the first time that this happened to me, I got a name and a face. Now, the face was there the whole time. It's like she's like I know it's a girl now, and she's got big brown eyes. She's a Sasquatch. She's a Sasquatch, but she's a juvenile. And I was meditating that night, just asking if they were still out back here, because I had a lot of stuff happen out in back of my house. There's a structure back there now, and I had gifts left at my back door, and I'm asking, are you guys still out back? Just give me a sign. And her face popped into my head, and all of a sudden I hear this voice goes na 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 na, and then all of a sudden you hear Tatari, then all of a sudden Natari, just like that, and boom, I wake up. I had the faces embedded in my hair is standing straight up on my arms right now, And now I have this name Natari. Now, Natari is not a name that you say. Have you ever said Natari, Dave, in your whole entire life? No.
Never.
I have never said Natari in my entire life. So I wake up the next day. I tell Maria about the meditation, what I was asking for, let them know that I'm still here. She goes, oh, yeah, well, look in the backyard. So I look in the backyard. There's a stuffed monkey and a Tupperware container in my backyard. Two of the items that we used at the gifting area at Larry's. The same monkey that we would tie in the tree and Velcro its arms. It was a different color, but it was the same stuffed monkey. And a Tupperware where we used to put the gifts and bury it underground underneath the rocks. These two items are sitting in my backyard now. From the night before, from the meditation dream, seeing this Natari girl asking if they were still back here. Now, to me, that is perfect representation of them knowing, of answering my question, that they are still back there, because who else would know that was the same kind of monkey we would wrap in the tree and they would take and play with. And they took one and brought it back. They took one for a year and then brought it back after a year's time, the same week. Same exact monkey and a Tupperware container. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not coincidence. Coincidence has been thrown out the door with me. So that's going on. So that whole week, all of a sudden in my town, you never hear this, there's a sighting. There's a sighting now. After all this meditation, Natari, the sight, now there's a sighting. Maria feeds every animal in the book. Maria's my wife. She feeds hummingbirds, birds, turkeys, bears. If she feed the bears if she could. She has a hummingbird feeder, and in the morning she was waking up and she would go out to feed her other birds with the bird seeder, but the hummingbird feeder lid would be the top would be popped off, all the liquid be drank, and then all the flowers plucked off the bottom of the hummingbird feeder and left in a little pile underneath the feeder. And this one went on for 4 days straight after the sighting in town. On the 5th day, she came in and she was mad. She goes, your buddies took, she calls them my buddies. She always calls them, your buddies took one of my flowers from my hummingbird feeder. Now I only have 4. The 5th one's missing. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe they'll bring it back to you. I don't know what's going to, they'll probably bring it back. That's what I told her, I believe. The next morning she wakes up. Guess what's back? It's a 5th flower. That night I'm sleeping in my bed upstairs and my grandbabies live with me and they're getting in ready to take a tub and they turn the water on and all of a sudden my room starts shaking. I think the pipes are ready to burst. I get up out of bed. I go outside. I open up what's going on? What's had the pipes? What's going on with the plumbing? Maria yells up the stairs. There's a blacked out helicopter hovering over our apartment.
No way.
Yeah. Blacked out, hovered over our apartment for 10 minutes. The next day, Sasquatch activity stopped. No more drinking of the hummingbird water. No more any flower plucking. It all ended after that night with the chopper. So it got quiet here. It got quiet here for a little while. Then I had another meditational dream, and this time I saw a gray Sasquatch, and he was not. He was a scary one. When we made eye contact in the meditation, and I didn't even wait around. I woke right out of the meditation. I could still see him. Big red eyes. He really scary looking guy. The next week comes. Maria goes outside to feed the other birds. She has these lights that have hummingbirds on them, and she sticks them in the ground. Well, right underneath, now the hummingbird feeder is now inside because the hummingbirds are gone, and she's not feeding the hummingbirds. Right underneath where the feeder was, and they were leaving the piles of the flowers from the hummingbird, was this light with the hummingbird on it now, in the same exact spot where they were leaving the flowers. So I think they came back and they were trying to They were trying to get Maria to bring the hummingbird the sugar water back out so she would feed them. That night, I get another meditation. And now this is a little black furry one. And he's about 4 foot tall. And this is really, really strange. And there's a beach ball on my chest. And he runs across my bedroom. It's in my bed. And he jumps up on that beach ball. And he goes, Archibald. And then I wake up from the meditation. I'm not asleep. I'm in wherever this is, it takes me. And his name is Archibald. I can still see him. I got the Drew pictures of him. Like Steve Wolf was saying, he's seen all my pictures. He's a great guy, by the way, Steve. Nice to see you here tonight. And Brown Dwarf has seen the pictures too. Archibald is his name. So I'm not thinking anything about it. And then Maria starts talking to me. She goes, for the last couple of days, there hasn't been any squirrels at the feeders. There's no birds at the feeders. Nothing's coming to the feeders. Well, what's going on? And I'm like, oh my God. Archibald, he's in the woods. There's nothing coming to the feeders. The wildlife is not coming to the house. He's out there. That night, the monkey that Natari brought was taken back. And then the next day, guess what comes back? The squirrels and the birds and everything else. And now the stuffed monkey that Natari brought, which I believe Natari brought, is now gone. Taken. Gone. It's gone. I can't find it. It's not in the woods back there. It's just gone. So now I believe that he came and told me basically he was out there. Come see him. And maybe the beach ball was a symbol. I guess I wasn't smart enough to put one and one together with it all or nothing, but I'm getting meditations and hearing names and seeing these things. And then the next day, physical things are going on, like the bringing of the monkey in the Tupperware container and the taking of the monkey and the drinking of the water. And the blacked out helicopter Maria wasn't happy about that one. Because we had the grandbabies live here. She goes, I don't want any of this stuff happening here. I don't want this happening here. I'm like, I don't know how to stop it. But they have no more helicopters have returned since. But I just firmly believe that these meditations, they're telling me something. I think they mean something. They're either to let me know they're out there, come see us, or I don't know. And if anybody in the chat room has experienced any of this stuff, or this is all new to me, discoversasquatch@gmail.com. I would love to hear thoughts, and because it's very, very strange. And would you agree that just doesn't happen on an everyday basis? I can't get to this spot in meditation. I wish I could. Maybe I would learn more, but I can't. It's like I pray first, because I want to be safe, because I don't want to go somewhere, because people say other things can pop into your meditation that aren't good and that shouldn't be there. So I always pray first. And then for some reason, I get drawn and sucked into this. So are they coming? Are these their names? Are they telling me their names? Are these the names? Do I look for these guys this year? Do I go out in the woods and look for Natari? Do I look, Natari, are you out there? And Natari was the first Native American saint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another crazy story. Her family passed from smallpox. The tribe got smallpox. Upper state New York is where the tribe, the Mohegans, she was a member, her father was a Mohegan hunter, really high up in the Mohegan tribe. They all got the smallpox and died, but she lived, and she was very deformed. Now, this is just the name. This is just the story behind her name, because Al Santoriga looked this up for me, because I would have never put one and one together. And she survived, but she was very deformed. And guess what happened to her? She went blind, Dave. What has been going on with my eye for the last 3 years? My retina has been detaching over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying it has anything.
Right there for a second. Do you think that maybe you were possessed by these spirits?
Well, we had to have the house blessed because the babies were seeing monsters here after Florida. They were pointing in the corners and they were saying monsters. We had to have Deb and Larry come in. You know Deb and Larry, right? What's their last name? Larry and Deb. They're friends of Al's. They're exorcists, but they came to do Al a favor and bless the house. Now, they said there was nothing evil here, but we walked across somewhere that we should have never walked across. It was by accident. It was Native American in origin. And then the Natari name comes through. But Natari, the face doesn't look like a Native American. It looks like a Sasquatch. She had 3 dreadlocks in front of her. I'll send you the picture after the show. And she's got long brown hair. She's a Sasquatch. I don't know how it's all tied in, and I'm trying to figure it out. It's very, 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 it's very confusing at this point. I just don't know what's what or what and what can physical harm come to you through meditation? Could something come in and do something to your eyes? Could something, I don't know. And it's very, very strange that this, ever since the Green Swamp, that it has progressed this way. So I wouldn't say possessed into me, but maybe, I don't know. The people that came here to bless the house said there was no demonic presence here. So that was the best part.
Do you feel safe?
I feel safe in my home. Yes, I pray in Jesus' name and the blood of Jesus Christ, and I have holy water. I carry holy water with me out in the field now. I have smudging spray. We smudge our stuff when we come home before we leave the forest. Nothing's allowed to attach to us. Nothing's allowed because there's other things out there in the woods that's roaming around that can attach to you and will attach to you. The piggyback thing will happen, and it does happen. And something did attach to me and come home, and it attached to the other 2 people in Florida too, because they have stuff going on at their homes too. The same people that walked across the same area that I did in the Green Swamp. And this is when this all went down, is from the Green Swamp. So what it was, I don't know, but the meditations is pretty wild because the next day they tell you, they show you that it's just not a dream, it's real. It's like physical activity, like that the monkey disappearing, something taking the monkey. It just sat in that tree for a month and a half before anything happened to it. And then once he came, told me his name, and the squirrels came and disappeared and came back and took the monkey. And I mean, it's all very, very confusing, but it all has to do with Sasquatch, because that's what I'm looking for. And that's what these are creatures. This little guy, I'll send you pictures too. You can see it after the show. The little black dude with the furry, and he's got a patch over his eyes like this. That's all skin, but the rest of them's all hair. He kind of looks like Patty, but a smaller version. I don't know how to explain it, but that beats every experience I've had with a Sasquatch so far this last couple months with the meditation.
With about 40 seconds to go, do you feel safe around this creature? Do you think it has your best interest at heart?
Oh, I don't believe the Sasquatch will hurt me. I don't believe that. I think there's other things in the woods that are out to hurt you. I don't think personally that the Sasquatches are the ones that are out to hurt you. Now, dogmen, on the other hand, I think dogmen are evil in my opinion. I don't, but I've never ran into one of those either. So I couldn't tell any of it, but, this is again, I can't lie to any of you guys. This is what's happening to me. This is the truth. Hopefully I get answers this year. Hopefully the woods opens up. Hopefully Natari opens up. Hopefully Archibald. Hopefully I come across a beach ball in the middle of the woods.
Our good friend Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch in the Berkshire Mountains of New York and Connecticut. We got up till the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. More high strangeness from the forests of North America on Spaced Out Radio next. Hot damn, that's a good story. That is a good story. We had at my area that we are investigating, and we can't get in there probably until about April, end of April, if we're lucky with the amount of snow. We had the one day we had fairies pushing through the trees. The next week we went there, the UFOs showed up. The following week we went there. The minute we turned onto that logging road, there was some. I was personally seeing pareidolia of alien gray heads in every tree, in every bush that I saw. And the other two with me were feeling real dark, heavy energy. And when we pulled up to our spot, I wouldn't even let my son out of the truck. We were only there about 40 minutes. And whatever it was there, now, according to Robin McCrae, who I introduced you to, she said that there were some sort of evil aliens there that were not too kind and very close by. And that was the Sasquatch that was actually scaring us away for our own safety.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And then we skipped a week, went back the following week, had a barbecue out there. Nothing happened. Went back the following week, set up another fire. And that's when we saw the 10-footer. And then way in the background, dude, way in the background, just like Ric Flair. Woo! And it happened twice after seeing him. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, according to Robin McCrae, she is in contact with my dude out there. And apparently he's been asking lately when we're coming back.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I really, I tell you the truth, I haven't really, I was starting to talk to her and then just life got crazy and I haven't really reached out, but I need to really reach out to her because I believe, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt anybody. And like I said, there's no more coincidence with this stuff. What has she got to come out? What is she's telling you this? What has she got to lose? What is she going to lose? You know what I mean? She's not making it up just to talk to you. You're going to talk to her regardless. Doesn't matter. Just like when I had Katie on Katie's awesome girl. And I learned a ton of stuff from her just for the short time she was on the show. And I think if we all start working together, ufologists, the cryptozoologists, whatever you want to call us, investigators, I call myself, and the paranormal, I think if we could all learn to do this, and instead of competing with each other, I think we can make huge strides. I think it's all intertwined. I think it's all alien is the root of all of it. That's my opinion.
I don't know if it's alien, but it's definitely the phenomena controlling everything, whatever that phenomena is.
Right. Well, I think, well, the way that Katie was telling me about the ranch out there, how the aliens were controlling the Sasquatch out there, telling them what to do. I'd never heard that story before until that moment either. So who knows what goes on?
Right.
Or maybe that was just a special occasion. Maybe that was just their own personal. I don't. Just too much to take in.
Really is. It really is.
But I hope if this, I'm going to reach out to that lady. I want to find out about the Atari and
Oh yeah.
Archibald. There's another name that I don't use, Archibald. In 100 million years, I would never say Archibald. I just don't know where these names are coming from.
Yeah. Robin is pretty amazing. She is pretty amazing.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to reach out for her. I didn't do it on purpose either. Just got busy at work, and then I tried a million things at once. That's my problem. I try to chew off more than I can handle.
Oh, we all do. Hold on right there. We got 10 seconds. Thank you to Chili Peen, Bigfoot Rob, Human Carl, and Steve Wolf for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much. Here we go with the next half hour. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final time tonight, we introduce our guest, Chris Reinhardt. He is from Discover Sasquatch out of the Berkshire Mountains of New York and Connecticut. And we are hearing some interesting stories about what this creature does out in the wilderness and how it can change you. Let's talk a little bit about telepathy, because you've also, Chris, had this happening and going on.
Yeah, and hearing the voices is very, very new. And I didn't think again, like you said at the beginning of the show and throughout the show, I was Mr. Flesh and Blood, and I didn't even think this stuff could ever happen. I mean, I believed in aliens. I believe in all cryptids. I believe in everything, but I didn't believe in this other side, the mind speak. And I didn't believe in them appearing and disappearing and portals and different worlds and have them coming out of saucers and all that stuff. And hearing the voices and hearing the names now, you gotta believe it. I mean, it's I'm not making it up. I mean, I don't even drink beer. I don't do anything. I'm a very boring guy. I go in the woods and I search for Sasquatch as my hobby, but I don't drink beer. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that stuff. And now I'm experiencing names that are given to me, and I'm hoping for the lotto numbers sooner or later. That would help out a little bit on the research side for give me a couple of numbers and a couple mil. That would work out great, right?
Oh, don't we all wish that? Don't we all wish that? You know? But the idea behind the chase of the cryptid, the chase of this, you have decided to think that these are more forest people now. I know personally I'm still not there, but why do you define the Sasquatch as forest people now?
It's just they're just too organized, and now I know they can talk to you. I mean, they have a language. I'm getting something I haven't mentioned yet. I am starting a new page on my website. It's called 369 after Nikola Tesla, and I am taking in recordings from across America, and you're going to be able to put them on my site, and we're going to map them out, and we're going to tell each county where they come from, and you're going to be able to hear the vocals, and you know who found the vocals, where they were recorded, and you're also going to be able to put any sighting that you had. If you've seen a Sasquatch walking down the road with a unicorn playing the ukulele, you're going to be able to put this on this page, because I think it needs to be documented. That's just a far off case. I'm just using it as an example. But if you see a Sasquatch with blue and yellow orbs, and it's sitting there and it's breaking a branch or something, looking in a tree, and there's orbs around it, you're going to be able to go to my site and report that, because I think all data needs to be logged. And I think audio is the biggest tool that we have, where we can get that on a consistent basis, from everywhere. And they have a language. I've gotten 10, 11, 12 recordings from across America, and it's all the Sierra sounds. It's all the same language that Ron Moore had captured. Now they're capturing it in Louisiana in the swamps. They're capturing it in Texas. They're capturing it in Washington State. It's a language. And you're going to be able to go to my site, and you're going to be able to hear these recordings. So if I call them a people, because they can communicate with each other, whether if it's vocally or they don't even have to use their mouths. Maybe they can do telepathy. I don't know, between each other, but I think it's important that we start keeping track of everything, not just a sighting, not just a howl, not just, orbs. I think the orbs is their own phenomenon. I don't think they have anything to do with the Sasquatch personally. I think it's an energy thing, the Earth's energy. And we're going to try, like I said at the beginning of the show, we have experiments designed specifically to see if we can draw in orbs. And if it works, it's going to be pretty extraordinary. And magnetism is very important too. We're going to be playing with magnets this year and stuff like thinking outside the box with what we're experiencing. And hopefully this can all gel in together, and we can move on. But the Sasquatch are people because they're organized. They talk to each other. They're well organized. They're hidden. They're not found. They're very, very smart. I mean, you can find a bear. You can find a grizzly bear. You can find a bobcat. I mean, they're hard. They're elusive, but you can still go find one. But how many people do you know can track down a Sasquatch? Not too many. I mean, you could track them. You can follow their prints. You can follow their breaks. You can follow this and that. But how many true pictures or film do we really have of a Sasquatch? Not too many.
If you had the smoking gun evidence, would you even release it?
See, now that's a tough question. It would depend on the circumstances. If it was to save them, yes. If it was for self-glory, no. There's no, to me, I don't need to put it out there for self-glory. I already know they exist. I'm just trying to keep awareness going. I had a very good friend, Kerry Arnold, who passed away in a tragic accident last year, and his main thing was awareness. And I promise I will going to keep awareness alive as long as I keep on doing this, and that's what I'm out to. And so if I wouldn't turn them in. I might release the picture, but I wouldn't tell you where it's from. I wouldn't tell them how to get to it. I wouldn't do anything like that. But I guess I would show the picture for awareness, but not for money, not for self-glorification, just for awareness, period.
All right, let's get to Barry's question here. Chris, have they ever communicated with you in your dreams when you weren't meditating?
Yep. How you doing, Barry? Yes, they have. I have had crazy dreams, and I've had a dream to the point to where I think I'm going to see one run across a field. I know the field. I'm actually going to visit this place in June. I know the field. I've seen the pictures. I've seen trail cam pictures from this area. I know the field. I see it in my dreams, and I see this one repeatedly running across the same path, same way. I mean, it's not a communication, but they're showing me the same scene over and over and over again, to the point where I think 100% it's going to happen. So they're not talking to me, but they're showing me showing me the same thing over and over again.
I think that's a good question. I mean, that ties in to the telepathy and everything that goes on. Chris, through this journey, we're so often wrapped up about what we are trying to learn about the creature, its habitat, its food, where it lives, what it is it drink. We're trying to learn every little facet of it. But I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to flip it on you. What has changed in you as an investigator and researcher and your own personal way you investigate this now?
Using meters, EMF meters.
I'm thinking more on a personal level here.
Oh, on a personal level, I have more respect for them. I know that they're not just an animal. I know if you treat them with kindness. I know if you appreciate what they do. I know if you, again, this is in my opinion, if you go and you know that they built something, and you go and you look at that thing, they know you are looking at that thing. You know that you are either admiring it. If you talk to them, you say, hey, this is beautiful that you made this, or whatever. There's certain people that do that. I appreciate, before it was a hunt. Now it's living in their world. Now it's more being a part of what they experience. If that makes any sense. Before, I wanted to hunt. I wanted to prove to the world that these guys were real. Now, I just want to experience. I want the interactions. I want to be side by side with them. I just want to experience them in the forest. That's the biggest change. Before, it was out to prove, cameras on my back, cameras all over the place, trying to get that picture. Now, I don't do that. I don't have cameras all over the place. I do bring cameras, because I like to collect cameras, and I use cameras because you never know what you're going to catch on them. But it's more of a personal thing now. It's more that you have a relationship with them rather than trying to hunt them and trying to get that picture and trying to expose them. Now it's more of appreciation, if that makes sense.
I can understand that appreciation, because it is humbling to be near one of these creatures. It is very humbling in order to say that not only you've seen one, but that you have interacted with it on more of a personal level. And I'm wondering if you think as well that the creature is wanting that contact too.
I believe they know you. I believe they get to know you. I believe they get to see you. I believe like I said, I use the same whistle as my ID. I think they know the whistle because they've imitated it. I think they know when you're in the forest. I think they know when you are coming to the forest at this point, before you even get there. I think they are in there. I think they can read your mind. I think they know if you're planning on coming to see, if you're planning on coming to Rock Throw Alley, is one of my areas on Sunday, and you talk about it for a couple of days. I just have this feeling that they know that you're coming some way or somehow. It's hard to explain that one, but I think they know beforehand that you're coming. I think that's the bond. They're able to look farther than you can.
Yeah, I can totally see that, and I can understand that. I mean, you say that you don't fear the creature or the being that it is, but much like killer whales, they have rogue pods that just seem to do a lot of damage. And I'm wondering if you think that in certain areas, because we hear of Sasquatch being more docile on the West Coast here. Maybe it's the marijuana in the forest. I don't know, but you hear of areas though, whether it's Mount St. Helens, whether it's down in Louisiana in the bayou, whether it's the Florida skunk ape, where this creature seems to be very difficult. It seems to be very angry and doesn't like people in its territory. Do you think there are rogue packs out there that may not be very kind to humans?
It could very well be. I mean, everybody could have a bad day. I personally think if they're going to hurt you, you have no chance anyways. So why fear them? I mean, if they're going to come and they're going to take you, they're going to take you. You got no chance of escaping. If they want you, you're theirs. I mean, their hands are the size of our heads. I mean, they could just. That's my biggest fear. I guess I shouldn't say that I don't fear. My biggest fear is walking a trail at 3:00 in the morning, and just this arm reaching out and grabbing you by the back of the neck, hood or something, and then pulling you in the woods, and then that's your last time anybody ever sees you. I mean, that's pretty scary. I've always thought that since day one I started all this, but just it's just hard to explain. These reports these are more like drive-by reports. These are like you people catching them. These aren't investigators going out and finding them, saying that they're giving them a hard time, or maybe it is. I don't know, but I think it's more of just the reports, like a drive-by, like you drove by one and he threw a log at your car. Well, maybe you almost hit him, so he threw a log at your car or something like that. I don't think they're out to hurt you. Maybe they can be antagonized. Again, I don't know. I don't have one. Again, the biggest thing everybody says, you don't have one in your garage, so we don't know. I've never been in that situation. I've had one a half inch from my cheek. My first interaction was one breathing on the side of my face through the tent. That night, it could have very easily taken me right out of that tent if it wanted to, and nothing ever happened. And nothing's ever happened since. Every stone that's been thrown at us has never hit us. They got extraordinary aim. I mean, I'm sure they could cluck you in the head if they wanted to. But I've never been in harm's way being around them or anything to that effect. So that would be a tough one for me to answer. I just don't think personally that they're out to hurt you, but there might be one that, a rogue one that could. But I think those would probably be way out in Alaska somewhere. You know what I mean? Out in a remote area where they don't see people. I think the ones that see people all the time are used to you. So I don't think they would hurt you. But again, don't bank on my words, and don't go out thinking that these guys can't hurt you either, because they're big enough to where they could really do some harm.
Would you walk up to one?
I don't know. It's pretty intense. I've seen it done. I've seen it done live. It's a pretty intense situation. It depends. It depends on the situation, I guess. No, I don't think I would walk within 10 feet of it. I wouldn't get any closer than 10 feet. And I'm going
for it. I'm going for it.
How close?
Here's the way I look at it. Okay. I'm either going to be the luckiest man alive in that situation, or when I step into the pearly gates of heaven and they say, "What happened to you?" I could say it was an awesome death.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like I said, I seen it. I lived it. I mean, I didn't do it personally, but I seen it done, and it's pretty hairy. It's pretty hairy.
No, I understand that, and trust me, you need cojones in order to do that. You do. Okay. You need to have the fortitude and the strength in order to do that. And trust me, I may run. I may get up close and personal, but when I saw that guy last year and we started walking towards him very slowly, like we're talking at about the pace of a snail here. Okay. I was like, I gotta go. I want to see this, because that was the third one I had seen in my life. And I'm at the point now where I've been hesitant too long. whether it was the UFO landing I witnessed, the aliens in the forest I witnessed, or whether the Sasquatch. I've been timid and scared too long. And now it's time for me personally to try and put my money where my mouth is. And like I said, not everybody gets to say they've been killed by Sasquatch. So if that does happen, it's a good death, man.
Well, make sure you film it. Make sure you get film it, because you could do it and you don't film it, then there's no proof, and then it'll be like,
True.
oh yeah, it was a Sasquatch that got him. Yeah, sure it was.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, the good part about it is I got buddies who'll be watching.
Yeah.
I have buddies who'll be watching. So I'll have eyewitnesses to my murder in the forest.
I would like a more close-up encounter. I would like to have one within 10, 12 feet during the day. I wouldn't want it at night, because at night they rule the night, bottom line.
Yes, they do.
When I was in the Ozarks, one was 60 yards away. We were watching on FLIR, and one guy turned around to grab something out of its backpack, and we were pitch black, and this thing immediately hid behind a tree, 60 yards away in the pitch dark of night. No moon, no nothing, and he's seen 60 yards away that guy turn around. So they own the night. I'd like to see one daytime, and I think I'm going to see. I really honestly think I'm going to see that one run across that field. This summer, I think it's going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see what goes down. We got a lot of good trips planned this year, and hopefully my eye stays good and we can get out there. And the field is where I'm at. I love doing the podcast because I get to talk to a bunch of different people and learn stuff from everybody. But my heart is in the woods and investigating, and hopefully everything goes good with everything this year and get out there.
I hope it does for you, as we have about 2.5 minutes here to go before we have to say goodnight to you. What do you want the public to know about Sasquatch? What is your message?
Just treat them with respect. Treat the people that investigate them with respect. Learn as much as possible from everybody you can. Don't discriminate. Don't pick on people just because they believe one way. If you don't agree with them, just turn your head and you don't need to bash them. You don't need to make that comment that it could hurt somebody. And it's a fun hobby. It gets you out in the wilderness. It gets you out in the woods, and they're out there 100%. The Sasquatch roam our forests. They are out there. Be careful, because they do throw stones. They do throw sticks. And just like Dave says, who knows? A rogue one could be having a bad day and could throw you. You never know. They're very special. They're people. They come and go. They're smarter than you think, and they have special abilities, and they can get, I bet you any amount of money, they can turn you around in the forest if they wanted to.
Well, I mean, that's the big thing. That's the big thing, is when you're out there, you are in their environment, and they know their environment very, very well. Chris, I want to say a big thank you again for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I absolutely love our time on the air, my friend. And, we'll have you back on probably around late spring, summertime to give us an update on how your research is going. But do us a favor, tell everybody where they can find your podcast and your YouTube channel.
All right. You can find everything. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, everything at Discover Sasquatch. It's all the same name, Discover Sasquatch. We would love to have you. Come on over, hit the sub, hit the like button. We have podcasts on Tuesday nights. I'm going to have to have Dave back on the show. He's been on the show before. I'll have to have him back again here soon. And that's how you find me. And I just want to say thank you for everybody in the chat for keeping it as adults. It's very, very nice to be on a show where people are our adults. And
Appreciate you, Chris.
having me, and thank you all for listening to what I got to say. And be safe out there, and get in the woods.
That's right. Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp. Then Tim Seymour is back for the UFO report. Spaced Out Radio's third hour is next. All right, buddy, we're clear.
All
Great,
right.
great show.
Well, thank you for having me. That 2 hours went by pretty quick.
Yeah, I know. I'll let you get back to the family and get some sleep because I know you're East Coast, but I always appreciate you, my friend. You're one of the good ones out there.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And then we'll talk. I got to get you on my show quick, too. So,
Very soon.
all right.
Very soon. All right, buddy.
You have a good rest of the night, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. You too. Later.
Bye.
All right. That's Big Bad Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch. He's a beauty. He's an absolute beauty. I'll be right back, guys. Going to take a quick break, and we'll see you around in a couple seconds. All right. What a great show. Yeah, we got more coming for you. I'm excited. My grandson had to go home today. I'm a little down about that. I kind of liked him. Excuse me. Him and I were hanging out this morning. We had a wrestling match this morning. I won. Just want to let you all know. I pinned him for the 3 count. Here's him and my boy. Yeah. Beautiful picture. Beautiful picture. Thank you to Derek, Steve, Human Carl, Bigfoot Rob, and Chili Peen for the super chats tonight, kicking off March. We very much appreciate it. So thank you so much. Here comes hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kyrialexi. Kyrialexi is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again to head to the swamp. But before we do that, I just want to go over something real quick with you. You know, we are 1 month away from shutting down VIP tickets for our second annual Spaced Out Radio fan party in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Golden Nugget, May 19th through 21st. We encourage all of you who want to go and who want to be a VIP, join us by sending your info to info@spacedoutradio.com. info@spacedoutradio.com. So that way we can get the numbers up. We got to know how many people are going to be there. We need to know how many people are going to want VIP packages, which comes with a special VIP party, along with a nice swag bag of gifts that comes along with that. So please let us know at info@spacedoutradio.com. We want to see everyone's invited. Everyone's invited. So we want to see you all there in Las Vegas, May 19th through 21st. All right, it's time to head to the swamp. Let's bring in Swamp Dweller.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. I was driving down a long, deserted highway in the middle of nowhere. The sun was setting, casting a beautiful orange glow across the empty road. I'd been driving for quite some time, several hours at the very least at this point, and I was getting very tired. I reached over to turn on the radio, but it was dead. Great, no music to keep me awake. I rolled down the window, letting the cool breeze whip through my hair. It was peaceful. almost serene. That was until my car started to sputter and then died. I pulled over to the side of the road, turning on my hazard lights. I popped the hood, hoping to see something simple like a loose wire or some sort of blown fuse. Unfortunately, I didn't know enough about cars to diagnose the problem offhand. I sighed, digging out my phone to call a tow truck. The phone, of course, had no freaking signal. The sky was getting darker, and the sense of panic began to grow inside of me. I felt alone out here, and my thoughts wandered to all the horror movies I had seen over the years. The ones where people get stranded in the middle of nowhere, and something horrible happens. The hills have eyes, wrong turn, you know the movies. I shook my head, trying to push those thoughts out of my head, out of my mind, trying to think of just peaceful, positive things. I needed to stay calm and focus on getting my car fixed and not freaking myself out. As I fumbled with the engine, I heard a rustling in the bushes. I froze, wondering what could be out there. Maybe it was just a rabbit or some other harmless animal. Then I heard a low, almost rumbling growl, something more menacing than I've ever heard in my life. I backed away slowly, looking for something I could use as some sort of weapon to defend myself if need be. But there was nothing, not even a rock. I turned my back to my car, trying to keep calm. Maybe, just maybe, if I was lucky enough, this was just my imagination. I was scanning, trying to see anything with the little vision that I had with my eyesight. But then I saw it. A figure emerged from the trees, its eyes glowing in the darkness. It was not human nor any animal I had ever seen in my lifetime. It was hunched over, its limbs twisted and elongated. It was heading straight for me. I felt a cold sweat break out of my forehead. I had never been so scared in my life. Instant anxiety waved over me. I fumbled for the car keys, trying to get in and lock the doors. But after a second of realizing that they were still in the ignition, I freaked out. The creature was getting closer, and I could hear its raspy breathing. I didn't know what to do at this point, so I stood there waiting for it to attack me. But for whatever reason, it never did. It just stood there, watching me. I honestly don't know for how long I stood there, absolutely frozen to the floor in fear. But eventually, the creature turned and lumbered back into the woods. I was still trembling as I climbed back into my car and tried to start it again. It turned over this time, and luckily, I was able to quickly drive away. I never looked back. I never did find out what that creature was. But I'll tell you this, I will never forget the terror I felt that night stranded on that lonely highway in the middle of nowhere. And I'll tell you this, I will never, ever drive in the middle of nowhere without telling somebody exactly where I'll be ever again.
The spookiness of Swamp Dweller here to kick off hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio each and every Monday through Friday night. We love the swamp around here. And if you want more stories like that, all you got to do is go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you got all these spooky stories for free, just like that. Hey, we're going to head from the swamp to the stars as little Timmy Senor is back for a UFO report that has some breaking news tonight. Here we go.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Was that a wristband that you were putting up there?
No, it's just a thing to, I guess, clean a lens. Just
I was going to say,
wipe it
that
off.
thing's like the size of my watch.
Oh, I'm wearing a wristband.
Yeah.
That's purely because of baldness. It gets hot in
Yes.
here. I've got a lot of gear running.
I don't blame you. I just think it's funny that your wristband is about the size of my watch.
Yeah, that thing is massive. You're
It
like
is.
lifting weights every time you check
It
the
is.
time.
It is. You know, I'm a big fan of diesel watches.
You're into diesel right now. Okay.
I've been into diesel watches for a long time. And I think I got 8 of them now.
Wow.
8 of them. Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a fetish with watches.
Right.
I counted my watches the other day because I have them all kind of hidden, right? Because just in case somebody, my
Wants
dogs
a
decide
diesel.
that my dogs decide to, lick a burglar instead of chasing him out, and they become friends with him. Hey, new friend here, right? So I hide my watches. I didn't realize I had 26 of them. 26 watches.
And only 2 wrists.
I know.
This guy. I do like that one that I saw. I think you had it in Denver, and it had a jaws. It had some teeth.
Yes, my Megalodon watch.
That is a cool watch.
It is
I
a
must
cool
say.
watch.
That is
Yeah.
a cool one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time. No, I like watches. I like the big faces.
Are you
on the
wearing
watch.
an El Ovni shirt?
I am wearing an El Ovni Volador shirt.
Why are you supporting that guy?
You know,
Unbelievable.
I'm trying to get on his good side. I'm about peace, love, and light to start this month.
That's cool. You're a big man for doing that.
Well, I don't know if it'll work. Every time I walk around a corner or doorway in my house, I'm wondering if I'm going to be, hit with a steel chair or something along those lines. You never know.
This guy.
You just never know. Hey, Canada making news in the UFO world today. Daniel Otis, the intrepid reporter for CTV News and a good friend of this show, broke a big story that it looks like Canadian scientists are going to be leading a new UFO group north of the border. What is going on here?
Yeah, exciting news. You're absolutely right. And a little late to the game, but better late than never. Here comes the Canadian government's top scientist launching a study into UAP, the term that is now replacing UFO. Sorry, Dave, up there in Canada. So, known as Sky Canada Project, the study being conducted by the Office of Chief Science Advisor of Canada is the first known official Canadian UFO research effort in nearly 30 years. And so, according to a February 2023 PowerPoint presentation obtained by CTV News, the study seeks to understand how UAP reports are handled in Canada and to offer recommendations for improvements if needed. And so the project plans to collect information this winter and spring before preparing an internal draft and report in the fall, a final public report in the winter or spring of 2024. And so contained within the 9-page presentation, it looks like they're asking questions that need to be asked, such as who is compiling and analyzing UAP observations made by the Canadians and others. And so I can just kind of hit some of the big points that we have presented, or Dave, you can kind of jump in as well, because I know you're pretty close to this topic. But it looks like as far as any emerging technology or unexplained phenomenon that is reported to the media of interest to the office, it's going to be part of the new report. And so page 4 of the presentation outlines motivations behind the Sky Canada project, which includes supporting science to, quote, document rare natural phenomenon, encouraging transparency and information access to prevent conspiracy theories, and aiding national security to prevent undetected intrusions. And so it also lists preparing for a collaboration with U.S. officials, where both the Pentagon and NASA are studying the UAP. And so, as well as responding to an official request to undertake a comprehensive study on UAPs in Canada, it looks like the Conservative member of Parliament is part of the push to have this project put together. And so the Chief Science Advisor's project is a signal to the government that the scientific community, the media, and the Parliament can no longer ignore this topic. And so even Maguire has been publicly advocated for a program like this since May of 2022. And so the vast majority of reports should be explainable, although it seems like there is a need for the Sky Canada project to lay out a specific scientific plan to do that. And so the government needs to quickly and accurately determine what is in the skies over Canada with a high degree of confidence. And so they're looking at this as needing a whole government approach, and including the chief science officer, rather, creating that post back in 2017 to promote the scientific independence and provide impartial advice to the prime minister and cabinet. And so, along with that, we are seeing that there is a push outside the department's mandate for transparency, and they're bringing in Transport Canada, the federal transportation department, maintaining their incident database and also including that in some of the research data that will be included within this report. And so they are admitting that they are years behind the Americans, but this project is still 30 years behind, but 30 years in the build and makeup. So, Dave, I know you're super excited, and I've hit some of the big points here, but do you have something that you'd like to add to this?
Well, the one thing that I do want to add to it is we were the first show to give Member of Parliament Larry Maguire a long interview about this subject. He and the rest of them are not interested in UAP. They are interested in UFOs. They're just using the new term in trying to find out what is going on in Canadian airspace. Okay, this is why when the drone was shot down over the Yukon territory, they knew right away and kept it public that this wasn't a UFO. Okay, that they described the object, what it was. It wasn't a balloon. It was an object that was about the size of a small car. It was cylindrical in shape. Okay, which sounds like a UFO, but at 40 miles an hour, it wasn't. It was a drone. Okay, they are interested in why these UFOs seem to be hovering in hotspots, like over Canada's nuclear energy facilities. Why there are certain areas, like the lower mainland of British Columbia near Vancouver, where there seems to be a hotbed of black triangle sightings. They want to know about the strange lights that seem to appear over Montreal and in the Northern Territories as well. There's a lot going on with these craft, and Canada has a long history of UFO reports, dating back to when, a gentleman named Wilbert Smith was actually the leader of this subject in the 1940s and 50s, going into the 60s, before Project Blue Book hit in the United States with J. Allen Hynek. The American government was actually contacting Wilbert Smith for his information and trying to learn more about the phenomena. Now, the interesting part about this group is, like I told you months ago with my information, my sources in Ottawa, they want to make this as scientific as possible. Not nuts and bolts like we see with the U.S. government, but the science behind what is flying in Canadian airspace. And if you recall that interview that happened July 2nd of last year with Larry Maguire, we knew that it was about trying to figure out, how are they getting here? Where are they coming from? Are they a safety breach to Canadian pilots, both military and commercial pilots flying across Canada or over Canada to get anywhere else in the world? And this is where I get excited about this, because Canada is not looking at this subject on a defense level. They are looking at the UFO subject from a practical, scientific level that should be expected from groups like Galileo or even NASA for that reason. I don't like it, and I've expressed my opinion to my sources in Ottawa that NASA is a bunch of garbage. Okay? And I explained why, that their study is garbage, because they already know. The interesting part about this, though, and this is where I want you guys to think about this, there is one agency in Canada that is not playing the UFO game. Can you name it, Tim?
Department of Energy?
No. The Canadian Space Agency, with its ties to NASA, they have been very vocal that there are no UFOs in the sky, including our most famous astronaut, a gentleman named Chris Hadfield, who was the commander for 6 months on the International Space Station, who has brazenly gone on very many media outlets to say there's no such thing as UFOs. They're not here. We never saw any while on the International Space Station. I don't know what people are talking about. The Canadian Space Agency needs NASA. I don't want to say they're controlled by NASA, but I would say NASA has a very large influence in that. And that is the only agency. And in fact, I was going to be calling my sources in Ottawa tomorrow to kind of get an update. And I'm going to ask them about that. I'm going to ask them about why the Canadian Space Agency doesn't seem to hop on the woo train when it comes to UFOs. But I'm excited about this. And you know what? I think, and I may be wrong here, okay? But I think, depending on what comes out of that study in 2024 when it's done, I think we're going to see either absolutely nothing, which I doubt, or we're going to see some eye-opening information. Because remember, the Canadian government doesn't have to play by the American rules on this. And I'm curious to see what comes out of that, considering they will be talking to the U.S. about this, but more so out of the reports that have been filed by Canadian people, the public, pilots, privately and commercially, military as well. I'm curious to see what's going to happen and what comes out. I think we could get more than we bargained for.
I love to hear your support for any space agency, whether it's NASA or the Canadian Space Agency. So I think that's fantastic.
Oh, whoa. I am not supporting the Canadian Space Agency on this. They've gone full on stupid like NASA has.
But okay. Well, some sources that I have talked to reveal potentially over this summer we may get some historical whistleblowers from perhaps NASA or something like that. And that would be fantastic if they were protected and were actually allowed to tell the truth of some of the things that they were seeing while they were in space. I mean, that is the dream. That's the ultimate whistleblower, in my personal opinion. And if the Canadian space program got on board with that, then I think we could have a great group of people that would come forward with a lot of truth. And the fact is that's where we kind of need to dig into. But I think that what we're starting to see is a collaboration, between the two countries, which I feel is fantastic because we know that there's deep existing data that can be shared. But I mean, it does show that potentially there were other organizations that were looking into UFO in Canada before this formalized program that they're talking about. We led off with it being 30 years since they had a formal program, but doesn't it seem like there was some research being done at least in the past 2 years? Even Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan, I believe that's his name, was talking about UAPs with his staff back in 2021, I believe, and came out publicly and reported to members of his team, and then spoke to Pentagon, the Pentagon UAP task force, who were briefing Canadian military personnel also back and forth. So it feels like this is maybe a program that was building. And maybe in collaboration with the United States, they decided that this was more of a partnership that we needed.
Absolutely. And we thank Karine Jean-Pierre, White House Press Secretary, for helping us bring this news from Canada. Because, we all live in Canada up here. When we come back on the UFO Report with Tim Senor, we're going to get more into UFO studies going on around the world and the NRO. All right. There we go. Hey, by the way, Sovereign Farts, if you drop an F-bomb on my country again, I'm going to keep dropping F-bombs on you. And if you were here, I'd drop an elbow right on your solar plexus.
Oh.
Yeah, then pin you, then I'd hook the leg and pin you for the 3 count. Mm-hmm.
Dave knows Bigfoot. Be careful.
Looks like random guy is suffering from some gout. Says he needs a foot massage bad.
Bragging.
Yeah. Only guy I know who brags about a gout flare-up.
Right? This guy.
Yeah. Random guy.
So
Lily
casual.
Pond, how are you? Third phase of moon. Good to see you guys here. Hope you guys are well. Are you guys coming to the Vegas party?
You should.
Yeah.
It's a hop, skip, and a jump from Hawaii.
Yep. Derek Galloway's coming to the Vegas party. He's even bringing streamers with him. Streamers.
There you go. I'm going to be back home in Hawaii here soon.
So get this. Here's something funny. My mother-in-law is over, okay? And I kind of like her sometimes. About 50% of the time. All right.
That was a Fred Flintstone moment. Go for it. Okay.
So her 80th birthday is coming up here. And she's staying here through the weekend. I said, we're going to take you for dinner on Saturday. I said, is there anything that you would like for your birthday party? I said, because we'll get you a cake. We'll get you some party hats. And I'm like, do you want me to find an unemployed logger to maybe strip for you? Like a stripogram or something like that. She's like, no. I'm like, no, seriously. I said, what if we got you a male stripper or something like that? Right? She's like, I don't think so. I'm like, well, I'll try and find one if you really want one. And I just kept on digging into this, right? Because I'm annoying that way. I'm like, really? I honestly will. I'll try and find you one. It might be tough, but
don't tell me she caved.
No, she didn't cave.
Oh my gosh. I was just hearing the lumberjack song from Monty Python the whole time.
Random guy says, my toes are long like fingers. I can pick up objects. You probably got webbed feet too.
Is that a good thing?
I wouldn't think so. Hi, Stephanie Jackson. And yes, third phase, you and everybody else is invited to our Vegas party, May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget. We'd love to see you all there. And Derek Galloway, we got to support the Las Vegas Raiders. Our quarterback, Derek Carr, he may be damn good looking, and those beautiful eyes that he had. But the guy can't win. He's never been able to win. He can't take us to the playoffs. He's a prototypical 10-6 quarterback or 9-7 quarterback. We got to get a good quarterback. We need to draft a good quarterback this year. We have to, a franchise type quarterback. Groom him for a year and a half and then give him the gears and let him go. Debbie Levin, welcome to SOR chat. Trying out my new stealth account, Deb from SAC. Oh, okay. Okay, guys, if I ever greet you elsewhere, it's me. Okay, Deb, we can do that. And let's see. I mean, when you have offensive threats like the Raiders do, from their running back to Hunter Renfrow, who never drops a ball, you got to get a quarterback who has an arm, not a puss arm, but an actual cannon of an arm to get him the football. You know, we need a Josh Allen type of guy. We need a what's his name? Cincinnati quarterback, Joe Burrow kind of guy. You know who I would take a chance on, to be honest with you? Because he will be a free agent after this year. Oh, God, now what's the kid's name? It was Cleveland's quarterback. And then he started playing for San Diego, not San Diego, for the L.A. Chargers or Rams. Oh, here we go. Rounded third, we're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with little Timmy Seno, our resident Timbit, and the UFO report that is going on. And before we get to this NRO stuff, former chief for defense contractor that ran Area 51 claimed knowledge of recovered flying saucer and live beings. Now, this is written in the Liberation Times by Christopher Sharp. And, you know, when we go to overtime after this show on our YouTube channel, we are going to have to ask Random Guy about this because he's got some sources. And, you know, like he said the other night on overtime, there ain't no aliens at Area 51 or any place in the United States that he knew of. Yet, this could be something a little bit different. What's going on here, little Timmy Seno?
Or were there, right? I mean, every time I get another piece of information, it throws another stick of dynamite into the barrel of what I thought I knew. And so it's good. You know, I think it should be that way. And I'm definitely open to new information, and we all should be. And so with this new article written here by Christopher Sharp, Alfred O'Donnell, a senior manager of EG&G, the defense contractor that managed Area 51, claimed that, quote, they did have a flying saucer that had been recovered from New Mexico and a live being. And so according to investigative journalist George Knapp, who interviewed him on numerous occasions, when speaking about the being, told him that we didn't know what it was, and to tell you the truth, we couldn't communicate with it. In the beginning, we didn't know what it was, and we didn't know where it was from. And in fact, we didn't know what to do with it. So Knapp added that O'Donnell compared the being's appearance to former president nominees Ross Perot, unlike the classical gray-looking alien, and in a further description said small head, large ears. And Knapp also shared a story about a former female employee of defense contractor Holmes and Narver, who allegedly had knowledge about, quote, crash saucers, recovered materials, and what sounded like a Roswell-type incident. And so before Knapp was scheduled to speak with her, the woman was intimidated by unknown agents, which caused her to cancel the meeting. Even after 2 decades, she continued to refuse a meeting. And so there's speculation around the alleged recovered craft that led to a congressional staffer's overseeing with the Special Access Programs, or SAPs, named Richard D'Amato, investigating the claims. And so in the early 1990s, former Senate Majority Leader Robert Baird, who the chair of Senate Committee on Appropriations, or the late Senator Harry Reid, who would later serve as a Senate Majority Leader, tasked with D'Amato with investigating this topic. And so investigating and visiting Area 51, D'Amato was unable to verify the claims related to the crash saucers, But according to Knapp, though it entirely feasible that this UFO cover-up exists within a private company, and so a company such as Lockheed Martin, EG&G, or Northrop Grumman. So, in another quote here, we have this statement: in the 1980s and 1990s, I served on the staff of the Senate Democratic leader, Senator Robert C. Byrd, and my responsibilities involved helping manage the budgets of the Department of Defense and the National Foreign Intelligence Program. My duties included responding to a senator's and committee's request for information, analysis, and legislation on a variety of national security issues. In this context, a senior Senate committee chairman asked me to conduct a preliminary inquiry into the allegations that came to his attention regarding unidentified aerial crashes in the 1940s in New Mexico. And so, continuing, he met with a number of people who had made public statements on the matter and reported the conclusion to the senator that the basis for such allegations did not appear to merit any further Senate investigation. And so, beyond this inquiry on behalf of the senator, there was no personal opinion on the matter and considered the inquiry to have been closed for over 20 years. And so now, with this new information coming forward, there are some new possibilities that there were some doings going on at Area 51 that we may not know about. There were some other possible explanations for what went on there, including some research had been done by a journalist and author, Annie Jacobson, for instance. And in this version, in her book, she described Area 51 as the uncensored history of America's top secret military base. And she details how O'Donnell, although not named in the book, told her that Roswell incident was not the result of a non-human intelligence, but in fact a Russian craft with grotesque childlike aviators developed in human experiments by Nazi doctor and war criminal Joseph Mengele. And so, after visiting Russia following the Cold War, Knapp himself disputed O'Donnell's version of Roswell, though the Russian contacts, including a few of the aerospace scientists whose mentors were Sergei Korolev, the father of Soviet Union's space program. Knapp discovered that the Russians were just as mystified about this that the Russians were just as mystified about the Roswell incident as Americans. So much mystery, but some new light possibly shed on the potential truth of craft and bodies at Area 51. Another witness coming forward, and pretty credible, seeming like they actually ran Area 51. So many questions. I've got so many questions. I'm sure you do too, Dave. But after seeing this and reading this article, where are you at with this?
I don't know, because I believe our random guy when he says that there aren't any aliens out in the desert. But on the flip side, random guy's not that old. I mean, he's old, but he's not that old. And could this been before his time? Could be. But I think we need to know. This goes into, Tim, how many times have you heard me say that there is this UFO Pandora's box that sits somewhere 87 stories below the Pentagon or wherever, in the catacombs of the Pentagon, where all of these type of secrets are held? And I think this is another one that gets wrapped into that. This is a story where I want to believe it. I do. Why wouldn't I? I want to believe that the U.S. has had contact with extraterrestrial entities. I don't believe Roswell was a Russian spy balloon or whatever it may be. Don't believe that for a second. But I will say this. I think that if they have crash retrievals and they've had extraterrestrials, during that time, those bodies or those craft would have been taken to one of two places, Wright-Patterson or Area 51. What we've learned since June, about Area 51, I'm not so sure if it would have been there. But nonetheless, we do have to look at it as one of those plausible stories that is locked in that Pandora's box that is sealed forever under the tag of disclosure. And this is another story that confirms for me why we never, ever will get disclosure.
Yeah.
Why it's confirmation.
Yeah, and consider also that in the weaponized video that was created by George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell about what this article is about, they go into detail about other bases that are implied, such as an Area 52 or S4, I think it would have been called, or they also have very descriptive they get very descriptive about locations, using terms like Creech for Indian Springs and some of the original names of what Area 51 was before it was Area 51, and they're implying that some of the alien tech and bodies were there before it was even Area 51. And so perhaps some of that history has just been swept away. And so there is no remnants of it. Why would they leave any lingering evidence of that even at all? So some of what they talk about is Papoose Lake being whatever S4 is now called. But again, that's never been verified. It's still just out there, and they're implying it in this tale of Area 51 and the mystery of the bodies that were retrieved from Roswell. And somehow they are intermingled. One doesn't have to be true if the other is, and they're not interchanging on truth. But I do find that the description of S4 being 9 hangars, and then Lazar's story being of 9 craft, and that it seems very possible. And we saw historically that they would love us to believe that there's UFOs, and it's nothing more than potentially that. And we saw how historically the CIA duped people that they knew were going to be journalists in the public eye. Linda Moulton Howe was fed a story by Richard Doty, and they talk about that. Why couldn't George Knapp have been fed the same story by O'Donnell or the people surrounding him to keep that story going? And even it's lingering to this day. See how he's even manipulated a filmmaker to get on board with the story. Now, I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that you can see historically how potentially they can manipulate the story and get belief across it through journalism. And so it's very dangerous to have any real solid foundation of belief from anywhere. We need evidence. And that's what RG is going to bring to the table, that there's no evidence. And that's hardcore. But again, it lingers. There's so many questions still, Dave, I'm sure.
Oh, look, when it comes to something like this, I always ask the question, where's the proof? What is proof? You've heard me say that dozens of times. But the thing that in something like this, there is proof. Okay, there's proof in the details. There's proof in the reports. There's maybe proof of video, okay, that is being held on to if this story is true. And when it comes to something like this, I think hearsay is dangerous. Now, I know I may be contradicting myself. There's going to be somebody who tries an aha, gotcha moment here. Okay. But what I'm looking at here, Tim, is when you have government facts like this, okay, if it is indeed factual, there's going to be a paper trail, there's going to be a film trail, and maybe an audio trail somewhere. It's not like Joe or Jill Six-Pack, who all they have is an anecdotal story of driving in their car that's hit by lights And the next thing you know, they got 4 hours of missing time. You're not prepared to record that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big difference. Big difference. And I want to know what that difference is. Where is that difference? And this is why I tell everybody, not to beat a dead horse, but this is where we see confirmation over disclosure. And I can see where the UFO community gets upset with these stories, these old, antiquated stories that keep coming up over and over and over again. The unfortunate part about it is we're in for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years of these exact same stories until we get some finalized answers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But let's also recognize that Area 51 wasn't even outed until Obama's administration. They didn't finally admit that. So would you consider, if they were to say that S4 existed, that was a link to the Lazar story, and so craft, and so bodies, and so potentially this story we're seeing held before us here by O'Donnell?
Well, I mean, it all depends what S4 is, right? It all depends.
If it is a below ground base and it has levels and things like that, and it's hidden by, desert camo and such.
Exactly. Or is it just a building that's tucked into a mountain? We don't know.
It's tantalizing.
We don't know. Let's move on to our final story. We got 5 minutes. The NRO, Black Projects. What's going on here?
In 2021, a highly classified system within the National Reconnaissance Office, or the NRO, detected what it described as a small 10-meter tic-tac shaped object, which did not match the visual signature of typical aircraft detections. And so what we're seeing here is potentially another tic-tac event being reported through what was a Freedom of Information request made by the Black Vault. And so the system observing this object is called, quote, sentient. And this program with the NRO, wherein details remain highly classified, sounds like something you'd hear about described in a science fiction movie rather than a full operation by the American intelligence community. And so sentient is, or at least aims to be, an analysis tool capable of devouring data of all sorts, making sense of the past and present, and anticipating the future, and pointing satellites toward what it determines will be the most interesting parts of the future. And so that is a pretty interesting description, but it does details. There are details available through The Verge on more about the sentient. And so it seems that at least one of Sentient's capabilities was revealed by a 2022 release of multiple documents under the FOIA, and it seems to be detecting UFOs. And so on record, proving that was brought to attention by the Black Vault last week, that it looks like originally sent to the DOD's Office of the Inspector General and then forwarded to the NRO to review. The UAP detection occurred on 6th of May in 2021, and multiple records released by the NRO can be pieced together to deduce some minor details. And so the details are that it was said that the unknown object was vaguely similar to what is considered an airborne object by U.S. Navy aircraft and surface vessels as the, quote, this is redacted, and another description, redacted, operating areas. And so the location where this object was detected may remain unknown, but at one point, the presentation being released by the NRO links past U.S. Navy sightings and describes this new detected object as roughly similar to the previously reported tic-tac shape, likely referring to the 2004 Nimitz encounter. And so likely not a sensor artifact or a focal plane anomaly. They want to reinforce that a sensor artifact anomaly was not likely, and a second sighting of the UAP was detected by at least one other sensor. And so it was visible, let's see, for 2 to 15 seconds. And then as I'm looking down through this report, it doesn't give too many more details, and it looks like a lot of it has been redacted. But what we are looking for are more reports like this, because it's going to give us details. Okay, so the system detected the presence of the vessel, and it's calling it that, from 25 kilometers away. And so they're able to identify these things with pretty pinpoint accuracy, and they are able to connect other incidents through this new system. So it looks like they've got a great system up, and we may hear little scattered bits of information like this, but sentient. Is this something you're aware of? And it's a new operating system to me, and so I'll be looking forward to hearing more about it. It sounds a little bit ominous, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I'm always wary about stuff when it comes to the NRO. You know why? Their slogan is, "We own the night."
Really?
Had I known that before I chose this our slogan to be "We own the night," I would may not have used it. May not have used it.
Well, sentient is being used to point our satellites at potential future UAP incursions. So it analyzes how they work and then looks to where it thinks it may show up again. That's very interesting, because reading between the lines there, that is exactly what it's saying. So fantastic details dug out by the Black Vault, but it leads me to so many more questions, Dave, and it proves that Big Brother is absolutely watching and possibly is predictive texting where to look for UAP.
Absolutely. You're a UAP guy. You'll always be a UAP guy.
Well, I mean, that's the stuff that we can detect, right? UFO is impossible to detect, in my personal opinion.
UFOs are detected every day.
Oh, man, they're hard to capture on film.
Yeah, I'll tell you where they are. Have before. Hey, thank you, Timmy, for that amazing report. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, in the NRO, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. If you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Every time Leroy, a.k.a. SuperQuest, says, "Take us home," I keep thinking of him, because Roy's like huge, okay? Like, he's random guy type huge.
Oh, yeah.
I keep seeing him grinding his teeth. "Take us home, you Canadian snowbound mother. Take us home, Captain. Take it." That was a fun show tonight.
It flew by. It flew.
Totally did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things when I was watching the release of that information coming from O'Donnell and that source. It was just, if I had hair.
You'd have pulled it out?
Yeah, it was one of those moments.
Damn.
Well, yeah, just because it hurts. I'm like, oh man, I had just made my mind up kind of on that. I was letting it go. I was like, I can move on now. I'm okay with that. I know you did too, kind of.
Yeah.
And then this one was just like a kick right in the face. Like, I have to rethink this now.
Uh-huh. All right, there's random guy.
There he is. Clear it up for us. Here he is.
The web-footed six-toed.
Post-date night.
What did I miss tonight? I was watching a film.
Took himself
Bigfoot
out.
talk. Hey, President Sadie, how you doing?
Popcornless.
I don't eat popcorn, man. I hate popcorn.
I hate popcorn too.
Me too.
Not my jam.
Just the
You know what I
butter.
hate about it? It's the skin of the popcorn always gets caught between my teeth.
It's the waste.
And then I never have a toothpick to get it out.
Yeah, makes sense. That's right. Random guy can never be trusted. Facts.
Thanks.
Facts.
Leroy's sticking up for buttered popcorn.
He's just
Though.
kidding. He says there's a just kidding put on there.
RG, I'm glad you're here, buddy. So many questions, and you've been silent.
I've been having a life. I didn't mean to do that. I'm
How
sorry.
dare you?
Yeah, what's with that? What's with that? You
Come on back to the Woo Train.
I was in
Trendy
California and doing things and anything except for getting laid, evidently. But other than that, I've been having a lot of fun.
Oh. Oh. Well.
What's up with you guys? What is your query, as the ladies' man would say?
Query. Very nice use of the word query.
What is your query? You suffer
What do you think
from-
of that story about aliens at Area 51?
I think you already could guess what I think about it. I just have a question. Here's the thing. Let's just assume I'm an idiot, or I'm full of it, or both, which is highly plausible also. But let's just, for fun's sake, how come all this stuff is like 80s, 90s, and there's nothing anywhere before or after concrete of anything? It's literally like a 20 to 25 year span, and everybody coming out with this stuff is pretty much the same age. It's just weird. I don't understand the logic behind it, and there's very easily debunked majority of the stuff just by Googling. So I don't believe it.
I could answer that.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, so it's a few different things. It's always been there, and it's always been a massive thing that everyone's been aware of, but we're not able to communicate it as well until now. We're much better at sharing this information, and so it obviously has ramped up. It's always been there, but I think people described it differently in the past. So it's only, the only reason that you're aware of it kind of in the 80s and 90s is because that's your purview of it, and that's the stuff that you were reading. You didn't read the stuff from the 50s and the 30s, but it was there, and it may have been in different format, but those stories were there.
Okay, that's fair.
So, yeah.
Completely fair.
Yeah, and in fact, I wanted to steer you to a film that was produced by the CIA.
The Green Door?
That's a great...
Been there in Vegas.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Okay. No, but yeah. It's called UFOs. It Has Begun, Then, Now, Past, Present, Future, something like that. But I'll send you the link, but everyone should watch it.
I'll check it out.
And it's got a great history of this topic and the government's relationship with it.
Cool.
Start to finish, all the programs. I mean, not start to finish. Obviously, it brings you up to about the 80s. Okay, so it'll bring you right up to date, and it covers Lonnie Zamora's case. and it talks about a few other really great credible cases and why that was taken seriously, and how the government has created programs over and over to try and figure it out. And the fact is they have not been able to. And even if they had a craft in the bodies, according to O'Donnell's story, they didn't know what to do with it. And it may have spent some time at what is called Area 51, and it may have spent some time at all these different places, because the scientists that were available were still, compartmentalized. So they had to give a chance for all these people to have an experience or a whack at it, and then they were sworn to secrecy. And I believe that people can keep secrets. So I do believe this could be a deeply buried secret, potentially. Now, I also believe that the players that have made it public could have absolutely been duped and, pawns in the CIA's program to cover this up. Potential. But there has to be a seed of truth in there somewhere.
Well, my question is this: how come if all that's fine? So let's assume that there was aliens and or craft, and they made their way around the country on parade in front of the scientists, and they didn't talk about it. That would have had to have been back way further back, right? Because once you get to 80s, 90s, now I know people personally,
right,
who have worked at almost every facility in the United States. And it's consistently, it would be, I'm not going to say impossible, because anything's possible, right? But just knowing how things work and knowing these people, it's just so far beyond. I can't wrap my head around it. It would take so much.
No, because they're the next generation. Like, my point is that if S4 exists at Papoose Lake, that's not public knowledge, right? It's just conjecture within this film that I'm talking about. And if that was real, like I said during the show, Obama released the fact that Area 51 was real. And then we could all talk about it. If our current president Biden was to say S4 publicly, would we be able to talk about it and everything that was related to it?
But I'm confused.
Go ahead.
I'm confused on that distinction, because the words you're using are just different places, but they're under the same exact purview, territory, range, whatever you want to call it. And it wouldn't make sense that somebody would declass one and not the other when they're directly connected. That doesn't add up.
So what I'm understanding you're saying is Area 51 is declassed. So
I don't think it's declassed. I've never heard of it.
They talk about it being real, at least.
Well, no, actually that came out in 1996 because there was massive lawsuits. So Clinton had to come out and say, hey, there's this place called Groom Lake, it's national security, and no, we're not talking about it. So that's the end of it. And they were doing that because lawsuits were being brought for people getting sick and cancer and all kinds of crazy stuff from what was going on out there. So that was technically, it was 1996. Okay. Obama didn't do anything to move the ball that I saw. There wasn't all of a sudden tours. It wasn't showing up on maps. You know what I mean? It didn't change anything. It's still just like any of the other sites around the country. It's still one of the highest security places you can go.
Right.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of friends who worked there. I got a fun question for you. Were there ever some outside of people trying to run or drive past the camo dudes? Did anybody in airplanes ever try to land there?
Stories, I've heard crazy stories about stuff like that. I don't know personally. I couldn't any more than you could Google it. But yeah, I've heard all kinds of stuff like that.
Really? You got to have balls to do that.
You would think, right?
Wow.
I mean, it's no different though. You try to go to Dugway, you try to go really any military installation. Almost any military installation is going to have a bad result of you trying to force your way into it. So, and now, obviously, there's things that are more secret than others. You go to NORAD, right? You try to kick that door down. Good luck to you.
That's a pretty thick door.
Cheyenne Mountain or something like that, right? Then you're playing a whole nother level of game. You go to nuclear sites, that's a whole different level of game. go to nuclear submarine ports. It's all the same kind of dangerous, you don't want to play with it, mind your own business kind of stuff, though. And I don't think any of it in present day, how about that? Potentially, yeah, sure, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't alive. And I don't know anybody that was alive in the 40s and 50s that did this stuff. But in the last 40 years, 50 years, pretty comfortable in saying aliens are not a thing at any of these places. So
All right,
if they're not, then where are they?
we got a question for you from Dark Protocol. Random guy, what do you know about Dulce and any tunnels?
Google it. I don't know anything personally about that.
Or you're not allowed to tell us?
Maybe. I don't know. One of the two. Or I could just lie.
No.
I'd rather tell you to Google it than make something up.
Yeah. By the way, this is that same time of the night where we welcome in all agents and agencies listening into Spaced Out Radio, and you're more than welcome to have a little call in if you want. That's a nice wave, Tim. I like how you wave when we do that.
No one cares. We're just talking to poop.
I know, but it's still fun.
It is fun. Dad, what good are you? I don't know. I cook ramen pretty well. And I don't just open it with the package. Like, I season my ramen. Sometimes I'll break an egg in it, some soy sauce, a little green onion. Like, I got skills in the kitchen. I don't know. Well, that wasn't what you were talking about, was it?
Ramen skills are important.
Make a good apple pie.
I could see you as a baker.
What stories did you cover tonight besides the alien? I only caught the tail end of that.
Canada's putting together its own scientific UFO.
Oh, yeah. That's a non-story. What was that picture you sent me? Did you talk about that?
What do you mean it's a non-story? We're going to break this story open.
Yeah, that's like telling... that's like saying Ariana Grande is in charge of tax evasion. It's completely irrelevant.
Oh. Kick to the groin.
Hey, Timmy, what was that picture you sent me? Was that relevant to anything you spoke about, or are we saving that for another show?
No, that was from that film that I just recommended to you.
Oh, okay.
That was an image from space taken during the Apollo mission.
Got it.
And it's just interesting. And yeah, there's great stuff in that flick. But basically what it's talking about is the fact that at some point it's going to come out that we have all these images and that NASA has it all. And our government knows about it. It's just, where is it and why can't we talk about it? That's the frustrating part.
Yeah, the context of those photos would be interesting.
Yeah. You got to see the film.
How, what camera took it, what was, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Was there a solar flare going on? Was there, like that kind of stuff becomes relevant for imagery like that.
Yep. 100% agree. What do you think about, and I'm just going to circle back to the Area 51 thing very briefly, because I did have one lingering question. So Alfred O'Donnell, right, is the guy that came out as the whistleblower on the actual craft and the bodies existing. And he actually told his own family that that was the truth of the matter and that there was an alien presence. This guy was the manager of Area 51. He had full access. MIT graduate, right? He was the first general manager of EG&G and partnered and eventually worked. I think it became Raytheon. He was on the Atomic Energy Commission, and he was part of the Manhattan Project building trigger systems. Wow. So the dude was an absolute genius, but also on a personal level, he believed in the presence of ET here on the planet, and then got to experience up close and personal, according to this report, actual craft and beings. And so, what part of this are you having a hard time with? Because historically, it could potentially have been swept away. So please just refine what part of his story you're having a hard time with.
I think it's just more of a fact of the aliens, because everything that I've heard and seen has that's a great omittance. Are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
So that's literally it. That's the main part.
What do you mean? You just have a hard time accepting that there were bodies recovered from the craft. I mean, that is a big leap. I get it. I mean, I'm right there with you.
If they're there, why wouldn't they be recovered? So,
well,
but
right.
that's the thing. You can't take this piecemeal. That's the thing that sucks.
Mhm.
It's like you have to take the whole story.
Right.
Because if they crashed, then suffice to say there's bodies, and if there's bodies, suffice to say they were recovered, and if they were recovered, suffice to say they were taken somewhere very secure. So then it all makes sense, right? That's why the story is so awesome for the lore of ufology, because it's perfect. It goes with every step you would plan on it having, but it comes down to, did it happen or not that way?
Right. And so,
again, you're going back to the logic that aliens flew across the galaxy or dimensions or whatever they did, and yet somehow magically crashed in New Mexico, in the least populated place on the planet, and just couldn't keep their craft off the ground. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
right. Well, my focus is more on Alfred O'Donnell, the incredibly credible person. What would be his motivation to lie to his family and the world at this point?
Right? How old is he?
Well, this was something that has been sat on. I don't believe he exists anymore. I don't think he's alive anymore, unfortunately. But this is information, right? Well, let me put it to, what if you had met Alfred and you knew him, he was a family member, and he told you this?
Right.
Like,
well,
would that
I
be
had family members that did? Well,
and that's not good, right? That's not, but this guy's saying alien bodies, and that's the big leap for you. And I get that. And I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just wondering at what point, for me, this is a head scratcher simply because it seems credible. It reeks of disinformation, the way Doty had handled Linda Moulton Howe, knowing that this information is coming from George Knapp, that potentially he was manipulated the same way through, via the CIA manipulation through somebody he trusted, meaning this guy, O'Donnell, somehow was convinced to give him this truth, but also his family. And so I have a hard time knowing where to pull strings on this one to know what to believe. I was hoping you had some insight, because I know how hard it is for you on this, but this was a pretty good
basic questions
witness.
are, how old was he? Was he on medication? Did he need money? Like, there's a lot of background things you have to get out of the way before you even begin to trust. Right. I don't care if we've seen like FBI agents get in trouble for doing terrible things. You know what I mean? Like, just because you work somewhere or you had a clearance doesn't mean you're a good person.
Right.
Like, there's still human beings that do stupid things or bad things, right? Or for their own ego or whatever. You don't know. Or maybe, look at Biden. You think you could probably convince him in his current mind state that anything you wanted, if you were in his inner circle. Hey, Joe, guess what? There's a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the backyard. Don't go there. He'd be like, oh, yeah, we're still having Jello, right? Like, people they lose their minds at some point just for being old. Happens to all of us, or at least a lot of us.
I love that you have a Rex for your icon tonight. I just noticed that.
Did you see what the meme was?
Yeah.
The asteroid coming. Oh no, the economy.
Right. That's beautiful.
It's actually kind of relevant to our current society.
Indeed. So ironic. There's always a little irony in everything.
I know what you want, Timmy. You want me to validate this or to give you a reason why it's not. And I don't have a direct reason why not, other than it doesn't match any other information. It doesn't match anything that I've ever researched or I've ever Googled or ever heard of hearsay. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, so then,
Maybe you could teach me why it is valid, other than
well,
he trusts me, bro. He's really valid.
no, I just wonder why there's been such absolute historic interest and why they would spend so much on so many programs making sure it wasn't real. And then when they discover it's probably real, they cover that up. I mean, when I need you to watch that film, I think, before you
Yeah,
answer
maybe
that.
I will open my eyes
Because,
a little bit.
you know, there's been so much interest in this from our government and from serious scientists. It may not have been out in the public purview. In fact, it wasn't. It was kept secret for so long.
Right.
And even Canada was doing research for decades and may not have come out publicly and spoke about it. And we're just hearing now, you know, about programs. And so it's a renewed interest.
I feel like that the secrecy was so good for so long that now we're like romancing and fantasizing about how good it is right now. I think that we're way overplaying it in our minds. And I mean that collectively, not you, not us per se as individuals, but just like as a society or people that are interested in a topic. It just feels like we're giving way too much credit here for the secrecy side of things. It's just sometimes like you want something to be true so bad that you make a reason for it to be true. And if you're like, oh, look, there it is, another guy said so, but yet here we are again, and he's a whistleblower, or this guy's a whistleblower, or this guy saw something, or this guy was underground. It's like, name anybody you want, bring me the videotape, bring me anything besides some old dude saying something that happened 50 years ago that no one else saw, that there's no way they could prove happened.
Right.
Anybody from the last 20 years. Anybody.
Right. But remember, historically, they haven't been allowed to talk about this.
Right.
So you wouldn't have heard about it.
I get it. But where's the people, if you're a whistleblower and you want to come forward with all this information that we have a right to know, bring me someone in the last 20 years that's worked at these places and have them say the same thing that the guys from the 80s are saying. Because I don't think
you might start seeing that, in fact.
All right.
There's been hints that this summer that we may have astronauts coming forward. How would you feel about that, hypothetically, if that happened? Someone that has been there within the last 5 to 10 years and seen something, and now they're finally able to talk about it.
That would be great. You know why? Because an astronaut doesn't do anything that's not recorded 100% on both audio and video, other than piss. And even some of that's recorded. So whatever they're talking about will be 100% be able to be proven.
Verifiable. And
Yep.
so would
That's
that
the best
help?
part about astronauts. Even fighter pilots, 90% of what they see, it can be verified through, at least for electronic means, if nothing else.
So you, as a staunch, quoted, self-claimed debunker, how would you feel about that kind of whistleblower evidence? How would you respond? Because that's kind of the public there.
That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It would be awesome because I would be impressed. But I think if something like that were to come to light, it wouldn't be under this. Again, going back to what I said, I think they do have some evidence. I've never said they don't have evidence, right? I'm pretty clear on what I've said. Whatever they have, it goes in a file, it goes in a drawer, because they have no idea. So whatever astronaut comes out with it says, yeah, you know, this guy was knocking on the window of the space station, I flipped him off and he left, or whatever. Doesn't matter what the story is. That's in a drawer somewhere, and they still don't know who, what, how. They know nothing about it. They just knew, hey, we're not going to talk about this because we don't know what the hell it was. That's the policy. But it would be great because then we at least know. Finally, we got, as Dave would say, confirmation, not disclosure. But at least now we know that this is real, and that we're not in some mass hysteria, and we're not psycho, and you know. And then people like me that can be analytical about it and accepting about it, and be like, all right, so if we know this and this, what's the next step so we can catch one of these things, not necessarily physically, but at least in a way that we can monitor it, video it, you know, stuff like that, set traps.
Right. And it's not just important that astronauts come forward and talk about it, because we know they have, but it's important that they do it in front of Congress, and Congress can interact and ask questions. Do you also agree with that?
Yeah, but not a committee. See, the problem with a committee, it's just like these defense and intel committees, and it's like they get a group of people, and they're like, cool, we're in the cool club, and we're going to know stuff, and we're not going to tell anybody else. Like, and they do that for all manner of things that they make committees for. And then they come out with either proclamations or a new law or a new something, some kind of legislation they want.
Right.
They're like, hey, we know what's going on, so here's the legislation we're proposing, push it through. And not even their other fellow Congress people get to know everything because they're not privy to that committee. So if you're going to do it, I mean, CNN has crappy ratings. Go 24 hours a day from the floor of Congress and have one person after another, unedited, unscripted, go up there and say their piece, and have Biden or whoever's president at the time come out and make a declaration. Everybody coming out here right now, they have full immunity and a presidential pardon for any information they give right now, publicly in front of the world.
Right.
Do that. If they don't do that, if they do anything short of that, then it's all a show and a circus, and you're never getting your answers.
I also lend credibility to deathbed confessions if they're done with a clear mind. You know, I think that's totally.
I don't know. I might mess with my kids. I'll probably tell them some lies just so that they're haunted.
Well, that's you. I think they'll know that your
I think that would
deathbed
be a great
confession is.
prank. The best prank you could ever be be like an astronaut and tell your family the aliens are real, even if you don't know they are. I would totally mess. I think deathbed is the worst time. It's like, dude, I can get away with anything right now.
Right. Give advice to your family.
Dude, I'm like, I hit bodies. Like, I'd just make up a bunch of crap.
Oh, God. You would. You
but that's
definitely
my sense of humor. That's my sense of humor. It's like,
I think your family's prepared for that. Dave, you've been silent, staunchly staring. Are you busy or would you like to chip in?
I'm editing right now.
Okay, fair enough.
He's
I
working
will
on
continue the
Roblox.
bombardment. We can totally skip topics because do you have anything that you'd like to bring?
Creed was a good movie.
Okay.
No, on the UFO tip, I've been at it the last couple of days. Since the last show I was on where I got blitzkrieged.
all in your head. But yeah.
Lack of a better word.
No. Hey, what do your NSA buddies think about you chatting with us now? Are you interacting with those guys and are you changing their minds at all? Because hopefully we can shift not just you into the woo, but maybe your buddies by osmosis.
No, they get a kick out of it. I told you we turned it into a drinking game.
Okay, you're not taking it seriously yet, is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm saying it's not about that. There's just certain themes that get repeated, and there's buzzwords that require you have to take a shot.
Okay, that sounds fun, and I'm okay with that then. But I mean,
like when somebody says "woo," you got to finish your beer.
Oh.
Like it's just like there's we're making it a game, a SOR board game right now for drinking.
Now I know.
Very nice. I'm very happy about that.
Knowing is half the battle. That's good stuff.
I'm actually not drinking tonight. I haven't been drinking. I'm trying to get back in shape.
Yeah, I always wonder what intelligence agencies think about the topic and how when they see somebody taking it seriously, and if you were to take it seriously, how would your buddies respond? Would they give you a hard time if you did change your mind?
You got to realize most intelligence agencies don't give a crap about this. They're busy doing real, like, anti-terrorism, they're doing real stuff on it. They got plenty to do besides monitor people talking about aliens and UFOs. That's the other thing. I think when I talked about earlier, I'm like, you guys give them too much credit. It's like, yeah, there's a huge data collection net that goes on with everybody and everything, but no one really gives a crap unless you show up, with an assault rifle in a mall or something. It's like, dude, unless you do something really crazy, if you take it to the outside,
he's
the
hanging
podcast
with you right now. I hear him in the background. I didn't realize
this guy is here.
It was a date night. Oh, you guys went out on a date. Okay, you guys saw a movie together. That's adorable.
Yep, pretty romantic. Actually.
That's good. That's why you didn't have popcorn. It's all making sense now. Okay.
I don't need popcorn today. Don't eat it.
No, cool. Okay, but yeah, you threw me off with that. I gotta admit. Oh boy. Okay, well, so no, I want to push it a little further because
Oh, I'm sure you do, Tim.
well, I'm just
Timmy.
sorry.
Bro.
Is it getting hot in here or is it just me? You just turn the heat up in here, guys? I don't know
Here's
how
the
you
thing.
do that.
Let me save your next question. I don't work for any intelligence agency, so you'll have to ask them. I don't know how they do business. I just know that they have a fetish for gingers.
You gotta see that Cheez-It commercial. I swear. You're in the new Cheez-It commercial. You're gonna laugh. Well, so I was wondering, what is the temperature, I guess, because we know that the government is deeply interested in it. But again, when they hear somebody talking on something that is probably factual, maybe this guy O'Donnell, like this, okay, so they hear that. What is the response? Do they rationalize it down to a point where, like you did, to a point where it was probably in their reality not feasible? Or do they look at it in a different way where let's think back and see how it was possible? Like, are you debunking or looking into the potentials? I guess is
No,
my
I'm
real
open to.
question.
Here's the thing: I don't like the word debunking. By the way,
That was your word. You said you were a debunker yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, but that's not what I really mean to say. What I mean is like
You're a skeptic.
I'm definitely a skeptic,
That's
but like
cool.
I get annoyed when I feel like as a collective of whoever I'm talking to about whatever, we're chasing our tail. And it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I get it. I get what you're saying. I hear what you're telling me. That sounds amazing, but probably not. And I can't always tell you why, but I can just tell you probably not. Now, that doesn't mean 100% that I just got blinders on. Like, that would be ignorant. I'm not ignorant. I just haven't seen anything other than a guy that knows a guy telling a story about anything. Show me something that's not a story. Show me. Or lights that can't be made out in a picture or a video. Show me.
And do you think potentially that they use it so much as a cover up that even it bubbles up to you guys, right? The disinformation, like even you and me and your NSA buddy sitting in there on the couch with you, we're all pawns in it. Like the truth is so deep, but
oh, they love it. They love if there is in fact a conspiracy, that this is the best possible outcome. Because even a guy that's legitimately just telling you when something is most likely BS, you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, then why are we even talking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the point here? It's like, it's just another data point of noise then, right?
Is there anything that makes you guys nervous when it comes to light?
Makes me nervous?
Like, is there an oh shit moment? Sorry, I never swear, but is there an oh bleep moment for you guys if there was a topic that was brought up maybe by us or in the news where you're like, oh, I wonder how this one's going to play out because this may be.
Well, I mean, with real stuff, with operational stuff where you'll see stuff and it gets reported as alien and you know exactly what it is and it's not, that kind of stuff is great for a laugh. But like outside of that, there's nothing that's really, I'm not worried about anything. It's either going to happen or it's not. I'm of the opinion that if these things are so intelligent and they're actually here, they're not stupid enough to make a deal with the government and hide themselves. They would be able to figure out really quick that's not a great plan, because they would be able to observe and see that our government really doesn't control the people. So they would be doing benevolent acts to win over the society, is what, if they were intelligent. They would not be hiding in secrecy and reptilian tunnels or whatever, insert theory here, right? Like, that's, to me, that's not an intelligent behavior, to just buddy up with leadership and for 100 years and never do anything. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Right, but now we have things like sentient, right? This new program that can point our satellites ahead of a UAP showing up and predict and things like that. So, I mean, at some point, there is some kind of unpredictable evidence of something that is moving at 65,000 miles an hour. And we're not getting that information, but maybe they're taking them down, calling them an object and then not recovering them. I mean, that's kind of like where my mind is going in the modern world, because historically we've seen them easily covering this up. It's going to get less and less easy to cover up. So
what if all of
when you
these
see these
aliens
stories in the
just
news, I was
AI
wondering, does
droids?
that send up flags? Sorry to talk over you there.
No, I was talking over you, but it's the whole point is, what if everything is interdimensional droid drones? Because then all of a sudden, that's the only feasible thing that makes sense why it would get shot down. Something that's not smart enough to avoid it because it's running a program, right? I've heard people refer to Greys as like the worker aliens. Maybe they're not actually alive in the sense of like us. Maybe they're alive in the sense of they're biological beings that are basically AI drones flying inside of drones meant to do reconnaissance. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because then it's more feasible why they would be stupid enough to get shot down. They're not that advanced. I don't know. We could do this for hours.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because, I mean, it seems like they're pretty specific and they know what to look for. They're spending a lot of money on tech to predict where this is and to get their satellites to look right at it, right? According to this brand new FOIA. So that tells me that there's a deep interest, even from perhaps the space program, because obviously they have to, or I'm sorry, well, Space Force rather, because they are having to initiate an agreement where that satellite is going to look for these things, obviously. So that's a whole new element and a new arm of the government. So that means they're interested, whether they want to talk about it or not. They're in agreement because we know about sentient. So, I mean, there's got to be more to it, and it's not all misinformation. Some of it is real, and that's the part that I'm wanting to talk about. And I know you do too.
How do we strip away the BS then?
Right.
That's the question, right? That's one thing we both agree on, right?
I think the way you start to strip away the BS is understand that even though, like, from your evidence, there's nothing there, or from our evidence, it sounds too good to be true, that there has to be some moral compromise in between both, that not everybody is right, but not everybody is wrong either.
And unfortunately, I feel like what you just said is that's a good way to go about it, but it's almost like it's a case by case difference.
Huge,
because based on everything from the type of object to who observed it to the circumstances around it will change completely the investigation and or the evidence even there to investigate.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And you're right. It does have to go by a case by case method. I mean, you can't lump everything into one sack and say this is all UFO and this is not. This is why like way before you joined us, random guy, like months ago, I had been preaching that with everything that's going on in the UFO world right now, and the fact that there is so much cover up to this story about this is why I made my switch from disclosure to confirmation, because until the answers, the true answers, start coming out for all of us with true disclosure, every question, no matter how ridiculous it may be, is still open to potential and plausible truth. Whether it's Bob Lazar, whether it's the Phoenix Lights, whether it's J-Rod walking around the runways of Area 51, whether it's crash retrievals, whether it's alien abductions, Eisenhower meeting aliens at Edwards Air Force Base before it was Edwards. Okay. Whatever that story may be, all of these are still relevant today because there is no answers. And maybe that's the reason why people keep bringing them up is, like you said, like, give me some news stories. But maybe the reason why people keep bringing them up is because in our world, we're dealing with puzzle pieces that are upside down and mixed up. And we're trying to put together, as ufologists or fans of ufology or journalists of ufology, are trying to put together the gray side of the puzzle, not the colored side of the puzzle. We don't have that yet. And that's why I don't think you can throw out any story right now and say that's garbage, that's a lie, that's this, that's that, because we haven't been told the truth about the answers. And yes, you are 100% correct that each one of those stories needs to be investigated on its own merit and not lumped in to other stories that could make it sound a little bit more exorbitant than what it is.
I'm just trying to figure out if we accept that this phenomenon is occurring, and if we accept that at least all of the reports are plausible, then it's even crazier than just something as simple as an alien species visiting us, because clearly there's multiple species, clearly there's multiple craft, clearly like, if we're going to open that door, it's overwhelming. It's ridiculous. It's like, and then if it's that overwhelming and it's that ridiculous, all of it's secret, like you kept all of that secret for all of humanity, like at some point it's the logic of keeping all of that a secret. I can't comprehend that, because I know how the government works and they can't keep secrets for poop. Like, it's crazy. That's a tall order for that long. That we're on like multiple generations of this. You know what I mean? With different people that aren't related to each other, with different ethics, with different motives. And that's why it's odd to me that seemingly only one age group and one era ever talks. That's just the odd thing to me.
Right, but at the same rate, I feel like you're forgetting the fact that people that work for the CIA are incredibly good at their jobs. And the fact is that they could, well, I mean, I've met Rick Doty, and he's incredibly likable dude. And I want to believe everything he says because he's telling me right to my face, but I can't. And the same thing holds water for each of us, right? And so that's the problem, that like it's too deep. It's too deep. I can't even imagine having to live that life and be able to spread that, because ultimately there is some truth there, and you have to be able to use your knowledge to decipher that, right? And so, Dave, I see you're ready to give it to him.
No, I'm not giving it to him. I think he's right.
Do you?
I think Random Guy is completely right. You have to, because these stories from both our side and his side are either real or they're fake. There's no in between on either. Okay? There is no difference. Okay, whether you're on his side or your side, we're both looking for the same answers. You have to be able to take every story with, is it truthful or is it not truthful? Okay. And if it is truthful, is it truthful to whom? Is it truthful to the public, or is it truthful to national security? Take the Holloman Air Force Base video. Okay, where we see 8 seconds of a UFO coming to the ground. Okay. We only have anecdotal evidence from people who viewed the full video or were eyewitnesses to the event that it landed, that 2 other craft were there in the air, and beings came out of the landed craft. Where's that video? Apparently it exists. Apparently it's in the government's hands, but we can talk about it and act like it's real, but we don't really know if it's real until it's publicly shown. I think that's what, and please, random guy, correct me if I'm wrong, in trying to break it all down. But I think that's the point, is we as a UFO world, we have all of these sensational stories that we believe because we've heard them for so many years, and yet it's all anecdotal proof.
There is one. Sorry, I thought you were done. No, I was just going to say the one caveat to what you said is, yes, everything is either true or untrue. However, there is ignorance by mistake. For instance, if there is some advanced technology that the United States or others are using, and it could be honestly mistaken for alien, right? That's also plausible. I think that's also a good number of potential cases, even whether it's stuff flying or stuff in the ocean or lasers or whatever people are seeing, right? I think a good number of that stuff is just us either testing stuff or doing stuff, and people just don't know what they don't mean to deceive. They don't mean to be incorrect, but they don't know how to categorize it. And I believe they honestly just make a mistake. But then once they have that confidence that I've seen this UFO and for sure they were there over my house, then that's it. Some people, they're not open to new evidence, new information, and because they've just made their mind up. So I think that's one little caveat. But other than that, yeah, it's either aliens or it's not, to make it simpler, right?
Right, but how would you explain that we're seeing the same thing today that they saw 75 years ago in what they're considering the UAP phenomenon? It's the same, or UFO for that matter. It's the same exact description of objects, but obviously they didn't have that tech, 75 years ago, and it couldn't be something that they were disguising even, it was impossible tech that they were viewing, and we're still seeing the same descriptions today.
Right.
So, I mean, that explanation only goes so far, don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go back to the Egyptians, right? They talk about stuff flying through the sky.
Well, I mean, documented, the Trent photograph is a great one. That's right out here in my neck of the woods. In fact, our good friend Terry Hall owns the property that photograph was taken on. And so we actually have cameras there right now. But that is the kind of thing that is a little, pretty good historic evidence. That was we've got that sort of thing, is my point. And it describes the same thing that they're seeing in the air today. And there were Tic Tacs back then, the same way there are now. And that same description of a cylindrical object. Now, that wasn't a Chinese drone in any way, shape, or form 75, 50 years ago. So they weren't using that technology. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. It doesn't float. We can't just use that blanket description that it was a disguise and they were using it to cover up our own tech or our opponent's tech. And Roswell was Russian, of some sort. It doesn't always hold water because it's the same thing. We can't just use that. It is a case-by-case basis, definitely. But at the same rate, we have to consider that at some point we have to accept that there was something in that seed form that started this whole concept of UFO as a possible cover up for our own tech. There had to be something, and even Avi Loeb says it only takes one inscrutable piece of evidence or data that we cannot shoot down that is absolutely proves one case to be real, for the whole thing to just kind of unravel.
Okay, so it's all real. Every bit of it's real. Let's make that assumption. All these whistleblowers are telling the truth. Everybody coming forward is telling accurate stories. No one's contradicting each other. So where is it? Who's in charge? Who's running this?
That's a great question. Those are the right questions.
So here's the thing. if a whistleblower says they know stuff, but they can't tell because they have an NDA, that you know what they can do? They can tell you who does know, because that doesn't violate the NDA. They can't talk about what they know, but they can't say, oh, this guy over here, or that guy over there, or this guy over there.
Good point.
What office is it? What office is it? So you don't have to say a word. Don't violate anything. What office is it? What city is it in? What state? Tell me something that has nothing to do with your NDA. Oh, you don't know? You can't tell me? Okay. I don't know. There's stuff like, it just seems like we're here to help, but not really. We're here to write books and be on TV shows and go in front of Congress and ask for money. Okay, cool. So like, let's go forward. This is all real, every bit of it. So what do we do now?
I mean, are you asking me?
Yeah,
or
I'm
Dave?
asking anybody, chat, anybody.
If
If I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about, and all of this is real. Let's make that assumption. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Let's say it's 100% real. How do you get anywhere without using these resources, these amazing resources of whistleblowers and respondents and all this stuff, and no one can tell us where to go next? They could just say, hey, we're just going to go talk in conferences.
So we're in the very beginning stages of what they're calling disclosure, right? Obviously, because that discussion is very much on the horizon. They need to get there. They're almost there. And I think that you are asking the absolute right question right there. Let's assume it's all real. How are we going to handle it? That's being brought up in front of the UN, just so you know. It is a great question that we are about to hopefully collectively as the planet ask.
Well, the UN is the United States. We pay for it.
It's being asked there, and collectively other countries will be visiting and attending and discussing and being open to that conversation.
Okay, and so why do we have to go to the UN for Lou Elizondo to tell us where all the rest of the people are that he worked with?
I think that's irrelevant to the topic, but a great question. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, are you a whistleblower? Like, I'm not a whistleblower. I've said since day one, I'm not saying crap about crap. I'm just here to ask questions to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
So let's, I get what you're saying, but I could do the same thing with all the, you said, well, there's these credible people, there's these credible reports, there's credible this. Okay, cool. Then let's use it. Why do we just keep having committees and conferences and hearings and stuff and nothing actually happens? It doesn't take that long. It takes phone calls. Right?
And on that note, gentlemen, we're going to call it for the night because I do have to get up for school with my son in the morning.
Cool.
But
that was fun.
Quick.
He just dropped. That was it. Like a spanked child.
No, dude,
he must have dropped out accidentally.
He must have.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree with him tonight. I do totally agree with him tonight.
I was trying to be the devil's advocate. Of course, you know me.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. Actually, thanks for letting me ask.
Oh, no worries. No, I totally agree with him. Every case has to be taken individually and proven whether or not it is true or false. And that's what it comes down to. Because it's either right or wrong. There is no in between on this. There is no yeah buts. That's the cool part about it. And Random Guy has that bang on tonight. Bang on.
It was fun. It was fun debate.
It was. Love him. Love him. That's why we bring him on. Thank you tonight to Derek, Steve, Human Carl, Bigfoot Rob, and Chili Peen for kicking off the super chats in March. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. And tomorrow night on the show, who do we have here? Glenn Jackson is going to join us. We're going to talk more monsters and Bigfoot and paranormal stuff tomorrow night. And then obviously Friday night will be the King of the Woo, the conductor of the Woo train, R. Keith Andrews.
That'll be fun.
Thank you, everybody. don't forget to sign up for your VIP tickets for Vegas at info@spacedoutradio.com. And we'll talk to you all tomorrow night.
Bye.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.